Mao helped him out when they were hard up, with me from his salary or from the income which he received from his writings, to do any of them any favor when it came to business matters. Shortly after the founding of New China, he received dozens of letters from them asking favors. Mao's replies were fine examples of his adherence to principle. In his letter to young Kai Zhe, his brother-in-law, he said, "Don't expect me to do anything of this nature. Don't come to Beijing," and advised him to obtain what he wanted through the another letter who was an old school friend of Mao's. He said, "Your offer of service in the government is highly valued. Perhaps earn your position in the government naturally, as a reward for your devotion to the well-being of the people, an acknowledgement of prestige thereby established. My recommendation might do harm to your good name. I would be glad if you share my views on this matter." The opening line of his poem in memory of young Kai Hui, An Ying's mother, and Liu encapsulates his enormous affection for them. The poem offended Mao's current wife, Jiang Qing. Commenting on her reaction, Mao remarked to me, "Jiang Qing still remains petty bourgeois in mentality. She's got a vicious tongue and is a troublemaker." When Jiang learned of this, she refused to speak to Mao for several days. After the founding of New China, Mao continued to correspond with Li Shuyi, but when Li asked Mao for help to get her to Beijing to study, Mao refused. During the 15 years I was with Mao, I was never aware of his allowing his friends or relatives to exploit their connection with him. But on more than one occasion, I witnessed how extraordinarily warm he could be with them. On one such occasion, an old lady came to speak with somebody Mao had known back home. She came to tell Mao about her village, the manner in which Mao, usual, he helped her both into and out of her seat, and kept on saying, "Easy, easy," as he helped her up and down the steps, and all the while she was saying, in the same tone as Mao, "Easy, easy, I'm an old woman and can't walk properly." As far as I'm concerned, the scene is unforgettable, for the old lady took the treatment which she received from Mao entirely for granted, as though it was her due. As I observed, throughout the years I was his bodyguard, Mao behaved just like anyone else when he was in the company of those close to him. One day, early in the 1950s, a new ambassador from one of those countries friendly to China was going to present his credentials to Mao. Reading the credentials out loud to Mao, who, as chairman of the government, would remain standing whilst listening to him, after which the ambassador would hand Mao the letter of appointment. As required by elaborate etiquette, Mao had to shave and have a haircut before meeting with the ambassador. The barber was Wang Hui, an old man with bald head, white beard, and lean face, with a pair of outsized glasses straddling his nose. He had done nothing other than cut people's hair all his life, and now probably hoped for nothing more than to be able to continue in his profession for a couple of more years. But even his glasses were not much help to his failing eyesight. With his eyes straining, his head cocked to one side, and his neck stretched this way and that in a painful effort to find the angle from which he could see best, each shaky movement of the razor was a long time in coming. On this occasion, he was no faster. With his left hand on Mao's head holding it still, and his right hand holding the razor above Mao's head, as if threatening to execute the chairman, he would aim long at Mao's face each time before applying the instrument, and each time he had finished, he would step back to his work, as though it were a work of art. With him working like this, even those of us watching him were beginning to lose patience.
560 megabytes used in the last 2 weeks for no apparent reason.
Keep quiet, he mumbled. When he changed position to work on the other side of Mao's face, with the razor poised above Mao's head in exactly the same manner, he still worked no faster. "Hiya! Can't you go a little faster, one?" Mao was growing impatient. He moved in the chair, only to be stopped by the barber,
that's the accent
who said unhurriedly, "Why can't you sit still, as I say? You won't be late, I assure you." When he finally finished with Mao's face, the chairman wiped his brows. Perhaps he had been sweating. Just as he was about to rise from the chair, the pressure of Wang's hand on his head prevented him. You're not doing what I say. I told you to sit still and take it easy. I want you to go faster, Mao protested feebly. Hold it. Do as I say. I haven't finished yet.
And that was part 19 of Mao Zedong, Man, Not God, written by Chen Yanchi, narrated by Ian Reid, and brought to you on China Radio International. Join us next time in A Light on Literature, in which Mao plays matchmaker for his bodyguards. If you missed anything, be sure to check out our website at www.crienglish.com and click on the link for A Light on Literature.
I want to learn Chinese.
其实并不难 It can be fun.
欢乐汉语 Chinese Studio.
大家好 Welcome to the Weekend Chinese Studio on CRI. 我是亚杰。
大家好，我是 Cam.
Cam, it's our movie week on Chinese Studio. What did you think?
It's been great. I learned a lot of useful words, but I do need a review if I want to put them into a real conversation.
Okay, first, let's listen to sentences in the week.
Sentences in the week. Movie 电影 Movie star 电影明星 Comedy 喜剧 Tragedy 悲剧 Horror movie 恐怖片 Animation 动画片 Blockbuster 大片 Are there any new blockbusters coming out soon? 最近有什么新的大片 All in today's Chinese studio.
Cam, what's the Chinese for movie? Do you still remember that?
I certainly do. It is
backlight.
电影.
Why do you light up the whole backlight?
Then I'm wondering how to say movie
I'm
star.
not talking
We
to you,
mentioned that
Chomo,
star
stupid.
is 明星.
明星.
Jesus Christ.
Ming
We've got the
means bright.
dumbest fucking stalkers
Xing,
in the fucking
original.
world. Nobody was talking to you, Chomo. Jesus fucking Christ. And I'm going to sit here for 4.5 minutes waiting for his fucking connection.
这是我最喜欢的电影。
You're fucking
为什么？
retarded.
因
Nobody's
为这部电
addressing
影
you.
里有我最
Your
喜
name
欢
is
的
High
电
Tech
影明
Computers,
星。
eh? You fucking retard.
Now, quiz time.
Every time this
Listeners,
idiot thinks I'm
let's
fucking
find out
looking at him
if
through the
Cam
screen and
remember
talking
all
to
the
him.
words we've learned
If I didn't
about
say
movie
Chomo,
genre.
fuck off,
Okay,
kill yourself,
give
and
him-
stop touching
Okay,
little
first
kids,
one,
I wasn't
comedy.
talking to you.
喜剧.
So why does
Because
cell phones
she
start up with
means
the
happy
whole
in
screen
Chinese.
back
Good.
as bright as
Then
it'll
followed by
go?
tragedy, which is...
The fucking
Beige.
phone's gonna melt.
What's
That's how
the
hot it
genre
is.
of the famous film The Shining?
Ooh, that is a 恐怖片 horror film.
Right.
What's your trigger,
Taxes Extra
Chomo?
OAC, made with domestic and imported
Dumbass.
parts, by appointment only. See HondaOntario.com.
Hiring can be challenging, but ZipRecruiter makes it fast and easy. We talked to Monica Starks, who needed to hire for a pivotal role at her company, GS Group.
As the owner of a construction company, finding the right people is a very difficult task. So I use ZipRecruiter.
ZipRecruiter's powerful matching technology identifies the right people for your job and actively invites them to apply, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.ca/Canada. Monica did, and that's how she found Lamont, her new project superintendent.
The job is so perfect for me. I had a career breakthrough. I would have never found this job if it wasn't for ZipRecruiter.
With ZipRecruiter, we've hired everyone from accountants to project managers to field scientists. With ZipRecruiter, we get hiring results.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And now you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.ca/Canada. That's ZipRecruiter.ca/Canada. ZipRecruiter.ca/Canada. We believe in a greater Toronto. This is CFMJ Global News Radio 640 Toronto, a Chorus Entertainment Company.
time I go to
You're listening
use
Global
it,
News
this flash
Radio
message.
640 Toronto. This is Global News at 11 o'clock.
About the Canadian Press, I'm Jerry Smith. Steady increase in COVID-19 related admissions to hospital and intensive care continues to weigh heavily on Canada's healthcare system, and that from the country's top physician, even as overall case counts begin to decline. Dr. Teresa Tam says there was a more than 20% increase in both hospitalizations and ICU patients over a 1-week stretch. She also notes vaccination numbers are also climbing, adding the provincial strategy to get shots into arms of more vulnerable populations seems to be working. Federal Conservative leader Aaron O'Toole has joined the ranks of the partially vaccinated. He and his wife got their first dose of the Oxford AstraZeneca shot from a masked and shielded healthcare worker while sitting in their car. He is encouraging all Canadians to get their vaccine when they become eligible. There is a surge in COVID-19 cases in Atlantic Canada's most heavily populated province. Nova Scotia is reporting 52 new infections. It's the first time in a year the province's case count has topped 50. The officials say 44 of those new cases are in the central zone of the province, which includes Halifax. Premier Ian Rankin took to Twitter to urge people to follow the rules. Rankin's tweet reads in part, "Just stay home." First-degree murder charge has been laid in what Vancouver police are calling a shocking and unnerving shooting in a busy city neighborhood. The victim, 31-year-old Harpreet Singh Dalawal of Abbotsford, was shot and killed outside a popular restaurant a week ago. 51-year-old Francois Gauthier is also accused of possession of a loaded, prohibited weapon. 3 similar targeted attacks have occurred in Metro Vancouver within a week. Gang enforcement officers say there's a disturbing trend of violence during daylight hours. 4 more astronauts have arrived at the International Space Station, bringing the total number to 11.
It's the biggest group up there in more than a decade and SpaceX's 3rd crew capsule in less than a year. Astronaut Megan MacArthur.
We're just really excited to be here and be part of this historic mission with the 2 Dragons on board. First reuse of a capsule, first reuse of a booster. It's just a tremendous achievement.
The reuse of the capsule is an essential part of SpaceX founder Elon Musk's push to the moon and Mars.
Almost half a century since humans were last on the moon. This is too long. We need to get back there.
We need to get back there. Why?
4 astronauts from the station return to Earth Wednesday. I'm Julie Walker.
Authorities in Arizona have arrested a man who police believe severed his finger while slashing his neighbor's car tires after an argument. Investigators in Maricopa say Kevin Johnson was arrested and identified as the owner of the finger found on his neighbor's driveway. Francesca Wickoff told police she found the finger April 15th after discovering her vehicle had 2 slashed tires on one side. This is the Canadian Press. In sports, Brooke Henderson has captured the LA Open at the Wilshire Country Club. The 23-year-old from Smiths Falls, Ontario, shot a 4-under-67 in the final round to claim her 10th career LPGA title. Mitch Marner scored career goal number 100. Toronto beat Winnipeg 4-1. John Tavares, Joe Thornton, and Alex Kerfoot into an empty net also scored for the Maple Leafs. Johnny Gaudreau scored twice. Calgary down Montreal 5-2. Milan Lucic, Brett Ritchie, and Rasmus Anderson with an empty net goal also scored for the Flames. Canadians hold down the 4th and final playoff spot in the NHL's North Division. Tampa Bay broke an 8th-inning tie with Toronto third baseman Kevin Biggio missed a grounder. The Rays went on to beat the Blue Jays 5-3 and end a 4-game losing skid. Toronto got a 3-run homer from Randall Grichuk. Jays loaded the bases with 2 outs in the 8th but failed to score. From the Canadian Press, I'm Jerry Smith.
I'm Carla Basaki. But look at your forecast. What a beautiful day it was in Toronto today. We made it up to 17
That's not a forecast,
and starting off with gorgeous blue skies. And then, of course, the clouds rolled in. Overnight tonight, we could see some isolated showers, especially to the southwest of the city, and we'll drop down to a low of about 8 degrees. Tomorrow,
times in our history, we faced a defining moment as a nation. A moment of uncertainty and danger when the future seems so uncertain, masked by fog.
Anzac Day marks the start of the Gallipoli campaign during the First World War, in which more than 11,000 soldiers from Australia and New Zealand were killed. England's professional football teams are uniting for a 4-day boycott of social media platforms in protest against racist abuse and discrimination. From next Friday, all clubs across the top men's and women's leagues won't post on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. The campaign is intended to tell tech companies that they must do more to eradicate online hate. That's the BBC.
That doesn't even make sense. Every time you say something like that, they restrict us. They don't restrict other people.
Hello and welcome.
Right from the very beginning, Facebook, use the blog button.
News and trends in the technology business.
You can't see that person. They can see you.
An audio chat room
You have them
service
blocked.
only
I don't see
started last
you.
year,
I blocked you.
valued
You
at
don't
$4
exist.
billion. Facebook, Twitter, and Reddit are already copying it. We'll ask whether audio.
Yeah, so
is
now
the
you
hot new
have
thing in social
AI.
media. We also meet the man who's demonstrated the
Now you have AI, and one of the reasons I say nigger so many times is because I'm trying to teach the computer that the person saying it in front of the computer is not the problem when they're quoting somebody and what they've been called.
Consumer debt? It's high pressure now. Yeah.
Now we get all new sorts of innuendo and shit. Where these people, it's almost like they're snickering, like we're too stupid to understand your innuendo. Like your logic is usually quite flawed. Your sense of humor is not really that well developed.
Noisy, smelly, and a bit of a joke compared to a horse. And look what happened as human ingenuity relentlessly advanced the capabilities.
Their policy around privacy and around data is excessive in my view. It goes far beyond what you would expect to see for a platform of this kind.
all of that soon. Now, this week, news emerged that a social media startup with no revenues had received new investment from top Silicon Valley investors, valuing it at $4 billion. It's an app called
You're gonna drag
Clubhouse,
me behind a truck,
only
eh?
available
You're gonna
on
do
iPhone
that, eh?
for now,
You
which
realize
allows
it's
you
on
to
site
start
for all
audio
of you
chat
from here
rooms
on out,
on
eh?
any
You know
subject.
that.
There's
And
been
here's
a
the two
huge amount
reasons
of
why.
buzz around this
Here's the two
quite
reasons why.
old-fashioned idea, so much so.
Because your Klansman motherfuckers started to drag me, told me you're going to drag me behind a truck till I'm dead. It's now on site between me and you forever, and here's why. Somebody else fixed the problem for me and got Buddy evicted from the building. So now I'll never see his ass again. This will never get resolved between me and him. So it has to be between me and all of you, because this dumbass is out there somewhere bragging about him doing it. I know this. You're going to rally up, and one day 4 you motherfuckers or 8 or whatever are going to jump out of a van and try to do this and that. No, you're not. No, you're not. KKK or K, motherfucker. I will fuck you up. Where's your, I've been waiting 5 fucking years to hear about this thing you guys set up in Saskatchewan. I ain't nothing but you pussies. Nothing but you pussies. You're gonna drag me behind it.
The big advantage for
Thanks all you white people for fixing
you know,
it and
you go
evicting
to it for
them.
the audio chat rooms rather than being hidden away as an added feature.
And
So
when this
what's
guy was
so great
spitting,
about this idea?
this guy is spitting in another black person's face, maybe he didn't give a fuck about that. I had to point out the diseases that you could be giving to his kid from that. You still don't give a fuck about that. COVID. You dirty niggers have to get away from us and cover your faces and fuck off. You're all gonna fucking die. And by the way, the FBI even warned about you a year and change ago. You're gonna put piss in bottles or some shit like you weirdos do.
I think it's on or off. There's no dimming feature.
The province I live in still issues KKK on vanity license plates. They still get away with it, and they let them. Try putting a Black Panther on a fucking license plate. See what happens to you.
On that it's monitoring, and I have to tell you, I'm happy with my old one, but I'm excited to try this new one. We will be getting it in, and we'll be doing a review on that. Cadillac also announced a new electric SUV that'll be available in 2022. It's called the Lyric. I think it's about 69,000 Canadian. Sounds like a lot, because it is.
Well, it's a Cadillac too.
It is a Cadillac. I think it's going to be competing up against like the Tesla Model Y, for example, which is cheaper, but obviously it's a Cadillac. You're getting a lot of extra kind of features with it.
Yeah, the creature,
luxury.
The luxury creature comforts will be interesting to see how that plays out. That's one of the things I do appreciate with electric vehicles. It feels like you're driving a spaceship.
Yeah, so if you get a chance to see the interior of this new Cadillac. It is beautiful. It's got a huge wide digital display inside. The lighting is all choreographed as well. Like they've really gone to town on the interior design and the external as well. Like the headlights are these new vertical lights on it, like LED lights. It looks like it still looks beautiful. Like the lines on it are super nice, but it's got that kind of futuristic tinge to it as well. It's going to have, I think, a 500 kilometer plus range on it. And it'll just be interesting to see as we get more of these EVs out there, how that's going to affect the pricing overall. Yeah. You know, Tesla's kind of been the leader so far. I know Chevy's got their Bolt, which is kind of a mid-range, kind of compact.
Is it mid-range? Feels a little bit
People park your Teslas indoors.
I'll say small.
Kind of have to plug them in, right?
So there hasn't been a lot of
battery pack burn for 4 hours, 30,000 gallons of water. Won't put it up.
I notice more and more vehicles now in the carpool lane, which is a perk of getting electric vehicles. You can drive in the carpool lane, at least here in Vancouver, without any other passengers. And so I actually noticed the other vehicles that are there, and I'm like, are they electric or are they not? I'm seeing more and more models that I didn't even realize they had electric versions of their vehicles, like Audi and other ones too.
I think it's good. It's going to get more competition.
There's a lot of nothingness there and not a lot of value. And I think once they open up this app to, particularly for Clubhouse, to the millions of other users on Android and everywhere else, you know, are you going to open it up to really exciting content all the time, every time, to form a habit? And if you can't do that consistently, the habit will not be formed and people will sort of dwindle. We're already starting to see some of that with the latest figures for downloads, but it is still too early to say, I think. But I am skeptical.
And what about Facebook's
That's what they talk about heroin and cigarettes.
Making quite a bold statement about how important audio is going to be.
I think that Facebook's play here is that they're also seeing the fact that, you know, Spotify, which they're working with on this, have had great success or had huge investments in podcasts. Apple are also coming out now to back with their latest updates for podcasts for creators as well. And I think that they need So think that the fact that there's a lot of the tech that's needed to create these features for audio chat rooms or social audio apps, they already have this. So it's a relatively easy lift compared to other features they may have copied and cloned before. But they're not in
I know you're getting madder and madder and madder, so I don't know why. You can sit and stare at me all fucking day either which way. Why are you getting more of this stuff?
Navarra. Leo Kellyan, now I'm sure we on this top radio program and podcast are true believers in audio, but aren't these...
You change it back.
Researchers found ancient civilizations were careful to preserve the biodiversity hotspots, such as those found in the Amazon and the Congo, and as a result, minimized or prevented ecological problems. So you can see that this kind of study is very academic, not very easy for people to understand.
Oh, again.
All in all,
this is hard to understand.
People, human beings, need to be careful.
Woman's voice will say that on this stage. A man's voice would not be allowed to say that on this station. The woman's voice isn't allowed to say anything other than this. It's hard to understand. Reading is bad for you. Reading in bright light is bad for you. Reading in dark light is bad for you. Reading in medium light is bad for you. Reading in blue light is bad for you. Reading in red light is
for those biodiversity places, hotspots in our planet.
Same
That's
fucking
right.
idiot.
And also the
what they're saying with the fucking voice
many have
she's a talking head
speculated that the
script.
shift to a crisis-stricken world was sparked by an increase of humans. I think a lot of people would
want rather than pitting around you. And
she said one smart thing, it would break the character that they're trying to put out there, and she wouldn't be on that station anymore. All you have to do to get accepted to CRI at that level, you have to be a completely submissive
Mark
dog.
Zuckerberg is imitating you.
Completely
It's bound to be huge. Let's have a look at some of the week's other big tech stories with Leo. Leo, we saw the first big Apple event of the year this week with new iPads and Mac.
This thing is they got to send a firmware update to.
Yeah, how long does the signal take? I think it takes like 8 minutes or something for the signal to actually get there. So by the time, you know, you're flying that thing and, oh, there's a mountain coming up, it's too late.
You would hope they would have some kind of autonomous systems in place. Collision avoidance.
You are listening to Get Connected. We're going to be talking about all the big Apple announcements coming up. And we will also be talking about solar roofs. Maybe it's time to get your roof solarized. Save some money.
And we're going to be
because solar is just like nuclear.
Yes.
This will be fun.
So stay tuned for that. You're listening to Get Connected. Back after this.
Oh, and they keep.
It's about time for a refresh. Regain them.
They keep doing something that's exceptionally illogical. They keep saying, "Oh, well, solar doesn't work at night. Wind doesn't always blow. So you'll need storage." No, you don't. You're getting rid of 100% of your generating capacity now and replacing it with one kind of power. That's not going to happen. When do you use the most electricity? When the sun's up. Also, what is windy in it, like indirectly? That's when your house is going to be either losing the most heat in the winter or all the cold air in the summer. In China, there were people arguing, there were then also outside, I guess, that solar panel plants should be run on solar power. Well, you're fucking stupid. It would never be possible for them to catch up to the newest technology to use to make it work the most efficient. It'd be just chasing your tail forever to prove a point to somebody that didn't know what they were talking about when they said it to you. So solar's the same as nuclear because of the waste we generate. Oh, okay. So you don't need batteries for solar. Not really. I mean, you do and you don't, but you're not storing up electricity to get you all through the whole night. That's how it works.
Then again, maybe we can't. Our family, our home, our income, our stuff, our past.
Stuff.
Our family, our home, our income, our stuff.
Palm scanning technology in the States, so that people at some of his shops can pay just by holding out their hand. And we just had Jeff Bezos' final letter as a chief executive. A very brief quote: "The world will always try to make Amazon more typical. We can and must be better than that." This is a really fascinating company to keep watching. They keep doing.
No, it's not. You're all obsessed because it's got that big number on the stock price, and you can't figure out why.
Yeah, their plan to deliver powerful flight drones.
Oh, it went up. Oh, it went down.
You're listening to Tech 10 from the BBC World Service with Rory, Kessler, and Joe.
Amazon, just like Walmart, subsidized by the government, no matter how you look at it. It's not the most efficient businesses, most efficient manufacturing, best procedures, policies, and all that shit practices that get these companies where they're at. It's stealing as much as possible from as many other people as possible and denying it all as long as possible.
New credit. It's easy to apply over the phone or online at lamina.ca. Get approved instantly up to $1,000 with no documents or credit checks and pay back over 3 to 5 months. Spice up your week and call 1-800-NEW-CREDIT or apply online at lamina.ca.
But what do I say? Have you ever tried weed? Did you like it?
Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to just drive to the next window for your order because there are people waiting behind you.
Oh.
So apparently this is sourdough. These people got really, really smart. They made the sides perfectly flat. No, that's irritating. It comes in a weird point 90% of the time. It's impossible to make a sandwich with that makes any sense. Bavarian premium sandwich sourdough bread. That's a lot of words for bread. Okay, please ignore the input.
It's all about solar energy, and specifically solar panels for homes.
Why aren't there solar panels on your Tesla, stupid? So if you park it there long enough,
we have a great guest on. His name is Daniel Hadazeta. He is the CEO of Trippz. They are a large solar panel company. Thanks for joining us, Daniel.
Thank you, Mike, for having me.
So today we're going to talk about solar panel for homes. Why haven't we seen more of this to date?
I believe we have been missing the critical point here.
Both on squeaky office chairs? Fuck
top of our homes. So we have to pay for the house, we have to pay for the wall, we have to pay for the roof, and then we have to pay for the solar to go on top of them. So you're always sharing this returning
why are
on
you using
investment.
2x4s?
It's ROI.
Tar paper, asphalt,
The way we look at it in Trippz
nails.
it's different. You're saying it has to be integrated. People, they shouldn't pay twice. One time for the roof, one time for the solar, one time for the wall, one time for the solar. So we integrate solar. We did long-term R&D. We invested millions to make sure we can create these new products.
That's helpful.
Fully integrated, and
because
we will see them more and more in the future.
What, 359 out of 360 times, your wall won't be facing the right way.
We're talking about how does it
so you're going to need to have panels hanging off the thing, not
So
integrated.
what you're saying, I guess in the past, you would have your existing roof and then you would kind of slap solar panels on top of that. Are you saying now that the roof and the solar panels are the same thing?
Correct. Now the new generations that are coming, they're all
so you
integrated.
The roof's like this, and
and
the panels
your
are like
solar
this.
panel is your roof.
And how do these look? Do they look crazy, or?
They look like something out of a Star Trek, but they look futuristic. They look just like our, anything else. We can design them in any form and shape. We are not limited in terms of color, sizes. We can have a shingle look. We can have a slate look, or we can have a modern, anodized aluminum look. So, the sky's the limit. We can create any shape or form. We have created these modular Lego type systems that we can create anything out of them. And that's the beauty of it.
That's copyright infringement,
So you can actually make these solar roofs look like a normal roof.
Correct.
And so, first of all, you've obviously got to get that solar roof installed. What other components does a homeowner need to have as well?
Just like any other wiring, we need wires to connect these solar panels together. We need an inverter to change, to kind of transfer the energy from DC to AC, which I'm hoping in the future we will have DC homes. One of the topics that are not really related to the solar, but the AC was
supposed to sell those to the people
energy.
in cars and
if
RVs.
We're producing energy on our own roof. We don't really need AC. We can just use the DC power, electricity, right at home. But other than solar panels,
you're not going to get completely off
the question
grid.
is just in wires
who's going to mass manufacture this shit?
Exchange the AC to DC.
And that just plugs right into the home wiring system, like the electricity?
It actually goes direct to the panel. So the main panel will receive the energy and distribute it from there. And you don't need to change the wiring of the house. You don't need to touch anything in the house. It only happens in the main panel, and it goes to the breakers.
And can this power an entire home? Like, how does that all work?
So it depends on the coverage. It depends on how much you put, how many square footage we are covering.
Depends what you're plugging in, dumbass.
Idea, on the wall, not on the roof, on the wall. If you have 1,000 square feet, you can charge.
If you cut off the power from the mains,
car, Model X,
your house is now entirely solar powered.
About 150 times a year for free, basically just from that electricity.
Is there an external battery that you would have that you would store that power, or do you just put it into the grid directly and your house would just consume it?
You can have batteries, or you can just use it without batteries. A lot of projects that we do, like high-rise rental projects or high-rise hotel projects, we don't put any batteries because the amount that we're producing is being consumed by the building on a daily basis. There is no need for storage. But it depends on the project and the type of the building and how many panels, how many square foot of coverage you're putting. Typically, we don't need batteries, but as the technology of the battery is improving in the next 2-3 years, the cost of batteries are going down. It's going to start to make sense to implement the batteries as a storage or as a backup, just in case if the grid is down.
So I have to ask this. We live in Canada, and we're actually doing the radio show from Vancouver. If you've been here, you might notice it rains a lot. How well do these solar roofs need to have full direct sunlight
350
to work?
days a year.
Well, actually, today we had a snow here in Toronto, so it's,
Okay, you win.
Well, that's one of the things we have to take into consideration because, if we design a solar panel only for California or for Dubai, then we are limiting ourselves. We are not going to really make a difference. So that's just part of the technology. Our panels, they actually produce more than 50%, even in a cloudy days. It doesn't have to be a sunny, with the sunshine and a perfect day.
But you do get more energy when it is a sunny day.
Of course.
And so if it is a cloudy day, you say you get roughly 50%?
No, he's lying.
Yeah, like anywhere from 55 to 65%.
It's not true.
I didn't know that. I was always kind of worried about that because obviously here in Vancouver it rains a lot. In Toronto, obviously it's snowing all the time as well. What are the costs associated with this, Danielle?
Ultraviolet light. So when they keep saying, "Oh, it's cooler down by the lake," if you go down by the lake, you'll get the sun coming at you directly, and everything that reflects off the lake. Why? Ultraviolet light. Clouds don't block the light. Oh, they're there, and I can't see through them, so it's blocking it. Like the block button on Facebook. I can't see you, so you're not. They're still seeing every post, every comment you make. Yes, they are, because I know because the number of people that block me. That's some stupid to say and then block me, and then I'm not supposed to be able to see it, but I can. The clouds disperse the light. So your panels are sitting still. The sun is moving, but it's getting an equal amount of light all fucking day on a cloudy day. And it's more light than coming in a straight line. You'll only get that peak for like a split second when everything in the universe lines up, and it still doesn't line up right. You believe what you want. Solar panels produce more on cloudy days than bright days, sunny days. It's kind of like they keep saying you won't need the sunglasses because it's cloudy, right? The people that wear the dollar store sunglasses, bet it's at least it's this, at least it's that. Fucking, every little bit helps. No, it doesn't. Just by way of example, the darker lenses make your irises open up more. Now you're getting flooded with ultraviolet light the whole time you're outside. It doesn't help you at all. Just some of it's counterintuitive. That Sergeant Preston show, they talk about they talk about snow blindness, and that's no joke, because the light is above you and below you. You cannot, it doesn't matter if you close your eyes, the light is so bright. It eventually fucks up your, somewhere between your retina and your visual cortex. It can no longer determine what's bright and dark anymore because it gets too much of the same information over and over.
Holding up your phones, it just hasn't, maybe with the exception of something like Pokemon Go, it hasn't really taken off yet. But that's not to say that it won't. Maybe you've just got to get the hardware right.
Well, we've really enjoyed working with you, so thanks for everything you've done. That's all for this week.
BBC World Service.
Big thank you, as I said, to Leo Kellyan and the rest of the BBC online tech team that he's run so well. You can read all of their work at bbc.com/technology. And don't forget to join us again in the Tech Tent at the same time next week.
Distribution of the BBC World Service in the U.S. is supported by C3 AI. C3 AI software enables organizations to use artificial intelligence at enterprise scale, solving previously unsolvable problems. C3 AI. This is enterprise AI. And Indeed, committed to delivering quality candidates to businesses. Learn more at Indeed.com/credit.
On this week's Cultural Frontline, director
By the way,
Alexander
that's a French
Nadal on why
loanword.
he made his
It's always
Oscar-nominated
Jack.
documentary Collective.
In the aftermath of this fire that took place in this music venue, with so many young people taking the streets in many cities in Romania, it felt like a turning point in society, and the first time that a young generation really expresses their wish to push out their parents' generation.
More from Alexander Nanau on the cultural frontline after the headlines.
BBC News. A fire has broken out at a coronavirus intensive care ward in the Iraqi capital, Baghdad, killing at least 23 people and injuring dozens more. The fire, reportedly caused by an exploding oxygen tank, led to a frantic effort to get COVID patients out of the hospital. A civil defense official said most died as they were taken off ventilators. Armenia has welcomed President Biden's decision to acknowledge that the Turkish Ottoman Empire committed genocide during the First World War. The Prime Minister said the announcement marked a step towards justice. Turkey denies that as many as 1.5 million Armenians were systematically killed. Further clashes have broken out in East Jerusalem between Palestinians and Israeli police, despite an appeal for calm by the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Palestinians complain that officers have been trying to prevent their usual gatherings during Ramadan. The World Health Organization says 25 countries, including Botswana and Thailand, have the potential to eradicate malaria within the next 5 years. The disease kills 400,000 people each year. The people of Albania go to the polls today in a parliamentary election after a campaign marred by violence. The Prime Minister, Edi Rama, is seeking a third term for his Socialist Party. His main challenger, the Democratic Party candidate, Lulzim Basha, has accused him of breaking his promises. England's professional football teams will begin a boycott on Friday of Twitter, Facebook and Instagram in protest against abuse and discrimination. All clubs across the top men's and women's leagues are taking part over 4 days. Players have been repeatedly sent racist messages online. Services have been held in Australia and New Zealand to mark Anzac Day, which honours the armed forces. Thousands gathered at events in both countries where coronavirus has been largely controlled. BBC News.
You know what that means? None of you have any immunity.
Hello, I'm Colin.
Yeah, here's the thing. No matter what tactic humanity had taken, we all had to do the same thing we didn't. So Australia and New Zealand, no natural immunity. Non-Micmac, no natural immunity to smallpox. I don't know what I'm talking about, right? Okay. Vaccine, nothing. Yeah, every virologist keeps saying the best immune response is had from natural infection. There's not one virion, one copy of the virus that does that. Remember, a virus is just a concept. The physical copy, like a CD, is the virion. You need hundreds of thousands of them. So for me, getting a little bit of exposure over and over here and there to all these types of airborne things, I fight it off like it's nothing. With this, what was it H1N1, H5N7, and H7N9? They said on the fucking radio about a Mexican, there's a blah 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 pig and chicken flu in Mexico. But don't worry, it can't come to Canada because immigration from Mexico to Canada is illegal. Not one part of that statement's true. They said it. I had it. Man, sick. No, not possible. Doctors tell you you're not sick. Oh, but we're gonna take a sample of this green crap coming out of the back of your throat. Wow. So it's funny, in my life, I'll get like proper medical care by fluke, and then the next 3 or 4 or 5 times, people will try to bullshit me when I've already been told the truth. I once had a bacterial infection in my throat that, had I not been dragged to the hospital that night, within 24 hours, my throat would have swelled up. I just would have suffocated and died. Yes, yet another cofactor to all this shit that's on the OHIP records. It don't matter if each individual doctor writes it down even. It all gets paid by OHIP. They've got the records. They know what I am. They know. So the next 5 times I get some type of infection, they keep telling, oh, there's nothing wrong with you. Like I don't see H1N1 on the fucking news or SARS or anything else. I'm just making up. I get a dog bite, I go to 2 hospitals and I can't get a rabies shot. They won't give me a rabies shot. I'm a little crazy. I got crazy in the head and started thinking like an animal for a few hours. No, I mean like the whole next day and shit. We don't get medical kit.
iPhone 11 or 12, it looked like, and basically it'll guide you right to.
One of the things they've been talking about is some online calculator that the province has for doctors to use to determine who gets the ICU bed. Right, which means someone like me won't get the ICU bed. They run that story in order to make minorities get mad and upset. What makes these white racist people mad and upset way more is finding out someone like me don't give a fuck, because we're going on 500 years of being treated like this. That me being put last on the list for that ICU bed don't mean shit. I've been to court hundreds of times for no reason other than being black. Every time I'm there, they got the air vents taped shut. Every time I'm there, I go last, breathing in everybody else crap all day long. I've got acute chest syndrome. I can't do that. I've been exposed to natural gas, cyanide, arsenic, burning PVC. I wasn't technically exposed to leaded gasoline in the conventional sense, but they banned it like the year before I was born or something, like that close. There's lead solder in all the fucking plumbing in this fucking city. In the city of Toronto, it said there's no lead in the plumbing in an apartment building because it can't take the pressure. It's all copper. So yeah, what's holding the copper together? Lead solder. The building's built in 74, 75, 76. Lead solder was banned in 1980, 1981, something like that. Right, there's no lead solder in here. Fuck you. That's why I run the water for an hour before I drink it.
That functionality so that you wouldn't be tracked anymore.
It's not the only reason. It keeps that sewer line running. I don't want the uranium sitting outside my house for, till the morning, just radiating. Till people start flushing the toilets in the morning and shit. The city of Toronto used to test, if you had them come test for lead, the inspectors were told, turn on the tap in the kitchen, then spend 5 minutes berating the person about saving water, then take the sample. So they can go, there's no lead in the city water supply. But there's a section of pipe this long, about that far in diameter, on every fucking house in this city in a certain period. It's a lead supply line, so they can bend it up towards the house and line it up nice and easy. Yeah, that was the thinking back in the day. And on top of that, most of the lead in these old houses, again, it's in the solder, but also the fixtures. In Canada, a brass plumbing fixture for potable drinking water can have 12.5% lead. 1/8 of a brass fixture is lead. That's nice to find out. That's why I'm not in a huge rush to cash in all these lead weights. Not much point returning it to the cycle. They're gonna use it for shit like that. Use it for fucking batteries. I'm gonna make a human piss battery out of all that.
It's better. It's got like a little kind of scroll wheel type pad up at the top, kind of almost iPod-ish.
Yeah, it's actually harkens back.
Harkens.
There was a really powerful soul-bearing moment with a victim, which I think you captured really beautifully and sensitively. And I just wonder, how did you navigate their personal pain without intrusion?
That was maybe the most complicated thing of the film, because when you film observational, you spend a lot of time with these people, and you become friends, and you have to understand and identify with them in order to understand what the pain means, how you can express it in a cinematic way, so that the cinema viewer does not just get crushed by it, but maybe also understands layers of it.
What impact has the documentary had in Romania?
The best impact was basically that so many people have seen.
Nice add-in.
the toast song. Oh.
China. I teach online, only online. But in my spare time, I may have a tour, a study tour, to make a lot of speeches in Chinese different universities. 好，感谢各位啊，不好意思，因为我个人原因，这堂课推迟了半个小时。
Zhu Wei started out as a regular teacher with one of the larger English teaching companies in Shanghai, but he soon discovered the world of online education, going on to found WeLearn. In 2016, he set a record for the highest income ever earned from an educational broadcast. Within just an hour, he raked in a cool $36,000 US.
整个这篇文章开头第一句话叫做 Over the past decade， 在过去的10几年，我要用我
The teacher's style is high energy, direct, youthful, and peppered with mildly dirty jokes. When your audience is sitting in front of the screen that's connected to the internet, with its endless distractions, you need to pull out all the stops.
It's harder to teach online than teaching in real life because you don't have
you can't physically molest your students. You're lying. You're fucking lying.
They cannot see
These are the same people.
Of your...
These are the same people that can't tell black people apart and can't teach autistic kids. So I'm not ragging on the people that actually do the work. The regular teachers that don't want to, I'll shuffle them out of their class. Or that's hard work for me. How come it's always required for you to be within touching distance of your students? I've now heard this from someone who teaches adults in China at an English teaching company. It's harder to do online. What? You're supposed to be reading from a book without interruption, right? What's hard about that? If I had a teleprompter, I could do that right now. I got books. Fuck it. Today we're all going to learn Spanish, English, English, Spanish. Over 60,000 words and translations. I think that's what we're going to do. Oh my God. Oh, and don't get it twisted. If you're a simple-minded person, I'm saying Chinese people. So that's not what I'm saying. These teachers are the ones we got up here. It's all the same. Canadian ESL teachers who started those English teaching companies in China or staff them or whatever. And I remember it didn't matter if you even passed high school, you could be an ESL teacher, and then you could go to China and be an English teacher there. And China now has the world's largest English-speaking population. That's why I sort of rag on the guys on the Learn Chinese shows, because the English speaker is an ESL teacher from Canada, typically. Oh, my fucking, everything hurts. Oh! Damn it. Damn it. Texas Senator Ted Cruz flew to Mexico amid state... whatever. Ow! Damn it, it hurts. I got bone pain. I got bad bone pain. And every time the joints pop, they fucking hurt like a bastard. Oh. Oh, and by the way, that is a white Anglophone trait, that thing about the eye contact and all these things in the classroom that you can't seem to. I watched you people abuse it and use it backwards with me. Why was I sitting in the back of the class when I was the one that couldn't see? If I did move up to the front of the class, I had to kneel down in front of the other students. So I'm in their way. Okay. Why was I transferred to English at grade 6? And then every Anglophone, the French teachers never did this. The Anglophone teachers want to keep screaming at me that Micmac don't exist or whatever, or made up by Hollywood, or wigwams don't exist. Because in these psychology books for the police here, made up shit. Well, this is what native culture is. They have 7 grandfathers and they give everything away to white people. And if you don't do that and talk about 7 grandfathers bullshit, They will insist you are not native. Oh, okay. And then they'll try and tell you that somehow they're paying your way in line. So all the money paid to police officers is borrowed into existence. The interest payments are paid by stealing money from India Capital Trust accounts, which total $2 trillion. Your country's deficit is like $1 trillion and change. You wonder why they don't want to abide by the court ruling from 2004. There was one from 2010, 2012, 2014. One of them said we don't need the status card. One of them said they have to give us back the trust accounts, and the other one said they have to give us the status card, even though we don't need it. Oh. Oh, of course.
Yeah. Get it.
2,000 plus times in a row, you've reacted the exact same way, Chomo. To whatever stimuli you are exposed to, you react so compulsively. You are not in control of anything. You're a narcissist. As soon as I touched the cherry to the spliff, what did I just say?
You can put that on me, we keep the artillery. If they cross me, then it's R.I.P. It's for my real thugs. But once they squeeze the door and bleed, just to smell the rosebud. In the search of finer things, maybe God will notice me if I blame. That's what it sounds like when the pistols sing. I'm taking a picture of her, hoping she don't see me. She cry when they talk about her on TV. Don't pass a fucking O, repack the clip. That to get our shit up. Only other option. Never a 9 to 5, cause I ain't got no day job. From the slums, little homie. When you play hard, if you don't wanna see the 30-30 when it sprays on. 20 people walk around 3/8 with a beef. The 40 they lick them down, the max for the beef. She heard niggas saying but they wanna make tracks with us. Before that, didn't even crack to us. Going hard in the booth, this a take going hard in the ground into your face, that's a makeover. 25 or a Q, the rest profit. Hustlers, why I say won't sleep till I knock it. And don't push me, cause I ain't in the talking. 4-year-old too, so I ain't scared if you got it. Y'all got it, is it me you comparing to? I ain't finished my fair share yet, but I aired them just started. And I ain't talking about no drum shot, brush them off from the top. You know the cold hard tracks, didn't think I was capable. 4-5 pipe on my traceable. Didn't think I was capable. 4-5 pipe on my it isn't traceable. You niggas don't ride something like a flat tire. Right in the fire at your back and with the backfire. Cause I got the same size as a blow dryer. Never true in your raps, just some damn liars. Great job, make them spit through the wires. And you don't supply shit, you a buyer. I'm the king again, rap Messiah. That's hate. Privately you rate and admire. Your rubber grip tight, no pliers. I gotta take you out, call it quits or retire. The fourth room down, just lift them up. Bounce don't leave shouts, so I'm switching up. Something like a bus driver still picking up. Got your hands in your pocket, nigga, stick them out. On the projects, money's no objects. So we finger fuck max and we pound cash. Slide in, slide out, duck when we ride out. Down go, I got round that you don't count. You're standing up till I tell them sit down. Stomach on the ground, hands behind your back and your low. When I'm digging in your pants, see me that in your grip. All for the rest. He said, check the weed, leave the cash. What? I'ma do it dirty, mad max. Do it, niggas get clapped. Bitches get snapped, they get smacked. Face down when I'm breaking their back. Go.
It's HB.
Already got pneumonia while she got the bird flu.
No rhymes, no what?
don't run. Fake ass nigga go hide. You would tell me it's all for the good, but I know that they telling me lies. These niggas, they trying to disguise their hate in their eyes when I arrive. But they thought I was really gonna lose, so they all give it up for the wise. Real ass nigga don't run. Fake ass nigga go hide. They would tell me it's all for the good, but I know that they telling me lies. These niggas, they trying to disguise their hate in their eyes when I arrive. But they thought I was really gonna lose, so they all give it up for the wise. I'ma fly to the stars on my first one, but trust me, it won't be the last one. I upgraded my girlfriend the last one. I think I just put a fast one. When I came in, I won't get your crib. Yo, bitch, she dressed, she damn. Damn, you so pathetic, my nigga. Get it together, my nigga. Need my money stretched out. Old hubble bubble. Damn, your ass two-faced. Talk about double trouble. See right through that shit. I'ma go into the honors and pop your bubble. Claim you solid like some concrete, but that shit still crumble. You be wishing I stop it, don't you? You see me, you wait till I drop it, don't you? You wanna see me perform it, don't you? Hating you love me, don't you? That shit LOL. Niggas take LOLs. So many fake out here. Like that shit for sale. Real ass nigga don't run. Fake ass nigga gon' hide. You ever tell me it's all for the good, well, I know that they telling me lies. These niggas, they trying to disguise their hate in their eyes when I arrive. Like they thought I was really gonna lose, so they all give it up for the wise. Real ass nigga don't run. Fake ass nigga gon' hide. You ever tell me it's all for the good, but I know that they telling me lies. These niggas, they trying to disguise their hate in their eyes when I arrive. Like they thought I was really gonna lose, so they all give it up for the wise.
Protect the things that matter to you. Get a free home insurance quote for one in less than 5 minutes.
The Commission, Uncle Paulie, B. Diddy, Caesar Nero, De Janeiro, Charlie Baltimore, Iceberg Slim, the Old Shady, Frankie Baby.
Do you know what beef is? Do you know what beef is? Ask yourself, do you know what beef is?
Check out this bizarre rapper style used by me.
So I'm gonna just remind you.
I put my key, you put your key in. Money you will be seeing.
Hilarious. I'm gonna just remind you once more. My legal last name is Dutch for from the graveyard, and Dutch people only took last names in the time of Napoleon because he couldn't keep track of us, which means that was the job my great-grandfather or whatever did. I'm 6'2". If I dig a hole to where I can see just over the top, I was close enough to 6 feet. One more thing. The Micmacs say, the tree does not die. It goes up again from where it fell. We don't believe in your concept of death. And that's why someone can throw blood in my face and I don't change a damn thing about what I do every day.
This rap Alfred Hitchcock drop top notch, player hating gon' stop. This instant, rappers too persistent, quick to spit, Biggie name on shit. Make my name taste like ass when you speak
Richie
it.
don't hit him no more.
Jewelry, you can keep it. That be our little secret. See me, be that is, how that is. Gee whiz, motherfuckers still in my face. They know my nigga gotta fucking kidnap kids. Fuck them in their ass, throw them over the bridge. That's how it is. My shit is laid out. Fuck that beat shit. That shit is played out. Y'all got the goal. All I make is one phone call. All y'all disappear by tomorrow. All your cousins borrow. I don't feel sorrow. Actually, your man passed the gap to me. Now check this. What's beef? Beef is when you need 2 cats to go to sleep. Beef is when your mom ain't say out in the streets. Beef is when I see you. Guaranteed to be an ICU. One more time. What's beef? Beef is when you make your enemies start to cheat. Beef is when you roll low at 30 deep. Beef is when I see you. Guaranteed to be your ICU. check it. I done smoked with the best of them, shot at the rest of them. Was about 100 or more, maybe less of them. Got my rocks on. That nigga from the brook just be wildin' on you, just be styling on you. And I tried to warn you, but your eyes fucked up. Now I cleared them shits with hits. You on the fucking bench. Pardon my French, but sometimes I get kinda peeved at these weak MCs. These supreme all alike. Lyrics I call them like I say them G. Y'all niggas sound like me. I was rhyming in the early 90s. Far behind me. It ain't hard to find me. Number one with the Booyah. Give me the Remy and the Chronic. Ain't no telling what I do to y'all. It's obvious the game new to y'all. Get the ends you make and spend them on the future, huh? One shot, I'm through with y'all. G. Beef is when you need 2 gas to go to sleep. Beef is when your mom ain't safe up in the street. Beef is when I see you. Guaranteed to be in ICU. One more time, what's beef? Beef is when you make your enemies start your cheek. Beef is when you roll no less than 30 deep. Beef is when I see you. Guaranteed to be in ICU. There be nothing but smooth sailing when I spit.
Every time I look towards the screen, my eyes should be clamped shut and my mouth edited. My, what's the word? Grotesque angle.
A first class ticket to Lucifer. Real name Christopher. Watch me set it off like Vivica. Here lies your demise. Close your eyes, face.
Is it exactly even number on the views?
She shine like the sun. You call 911, yeah. She's talking with the guns. You call 911, yeah. Snitches hating on the guy. They calling 911, yeah. Bitches looking really hard. They calling 911. Yeah, hey, gotta get that money anyway, every day, hey, gotta make that daddy, yeah, we're getting late, yeah, young gunners know the people's getting straight, whoa, $1 now, yeah, hey, gotta get that money anyway. I came a long way, getting traveled. From the bottom to the top, getting long. I came a long way with my family. Now everyone probably wanna hear. I came a long way from the base. When the drama comes, you know it's safe. I came a long way from having nothing. Damn, it feels good to finally have some. It feels good to put money in my mama's hand. It feels good to put clothes on my brother's back. I remember way back when I was young. I had to find a way to be my fucking hug. So I went to the hood and found the dope man. 15, acting just like a grown man. People always say I don't know how to act right. They say my chain shine brighter than a flashlight. They say my dope stop the whole kept shaking. I'm on my money, don't be mistaken. I had me cookie decorated with some molded hoes. The 44 gold, never wake up before I go. I'm on a different level, I'm a fucking outlaw. A young nigga fit to be the fucking top dog. Everywhere I go, the people ask me. If I can bless their crib and bless their family. I came a long way getting traveled. From the bottom to the top, said it long ago. I came a long way with my family. Now everyone probably wanna hear. I came a long way from the base. When the drama comes, you know it's safe. I came a long way from having nothing. Damn, it feels good to finally have some. I remember sipping 40s in the moonlight. I remember freestyling all day and night. I remember pushing past till the sunshine. I remember chilling with my Mary before we died. I remember when my mom kicked me out the house. I remember begging dough when I started out. I remember when I didn't have no one. I remember when I got my first trap money. Don't forget where you came from, Lord. These streets is ice cold. They ain't no joke. Don't beans, don't sleep in the chase. Why they wait on boy, yes, slip so Texas. Otherwise they'll catch you, man. I'ma give it to you like this, simple, plain. Who am I? I'm a menace to the game. The reason that your whole crew comes to change. I came a long way, getting trapped. From the bottom to the top, it's long ago. I came a long way with my family. Now everyone finally wanna hear. I came a long way from the base. When the drama comes, you know it's safe. I came a long way from having nothing. Damn, it feels good to finally have some. Hey!
Did Mike pick up the fucking motorcycle? Oh, well. Oh, shit.
Result of a misdirected, surely not faultless life, but nevertheless a situation that demands outside help.
There now. Don't go to pieces. All I asked was what's her name and what she's afraid of.
Her name is Anne Connolly. 6 years ago, she had the misfortune to fall in love with a man named Neil Grafter, a man of violent passions, jealousy, and so on. He misrepresented himself to her. He plied her with luxuries. And then, practically on the eve of the wedding, he was arrested for grand theft.
Yeah, I think I can ad-lib the rest. While he was in prison, she didn't get tired of the luxuries he'd given her, but she did get tired of waiting for him.
Well, he had lied to her, and 5 years is a long time.
Well,
the point is, Grafter's coming out on parole today, and Miss Connolly is terrified at the prospects of her first meeting with him. His violence, you know. He once threatened to kill her if she so much as looked at another man. We want you with her when Grafter arrives.
Well, why me? Aren't there bodyguards for hire in Milwaukee?
We hold a large paid-up policy on her life, and we want to protect it. Besides, she's practically penniless. She couldn't even afford to hire a private detective. You know, it's a tragic case. And then, on the other hand, possibly all her fears are imaginary. Perhaps nothing will happen at all.
Look, Mr. Haley, you can count on one thing. If I'm mixed up in it, something will happen. Expense account, item 2, $55.10. Airfare, Hartford to Milwaukee. I switched on my reading light, settled back in my reclining seat, and once more buried my nose in the case of the Playful Siamese. I should have buried the book. It turned out that Dexter Payne had lived through Chapter 1, and he really started to live in Chapters 2 and 3. A beautiful blonde in a slinky negligee had just made herself comfortable on Dexter's lap, and guess what happened? A fuse on the plane blew, my reading light went out, and I spent the rest of the flight in a dark cabin in a black mood. Expense account, item 3, $2.50. Cab fare, airport, the address of Anne Connolly, which, for a girl who couldn't afford a detective, was quite a hunk of a dress. Unless she was living on France.
Good evening.
Good evening.
In case you are looking for Miss Connolly, she is not here. In fact, she has went out for the entire evening.
Oh? Well, I think she's expecting me. At least she sent for me.
She sent for you?
Yeah, I'm Johnny Dollar from the insurance company.
Oh, how dense of me. She did mention in passing that a detective would show up. Step inside, please.
Thanks.
Just hang up your coat and things.
All right.
She wishes you to remain until she comes home, which could be any time after the joints close up.
Yeah, sure.
And in the meantime, I have been instructed to see that you are comfortable. So what would you care for, a straight slug or a highball?
Well, a highball would be fine.
Step this way, please.
Yeah.
Oh, the floor's wax, so watch that throw rug if you don't wish to land on your ear.
Okay, thanks. Hey, it's a nice place. Do you own it?
Most decidedly not. To me, it is a sweatshop. I am Cora. I am Miss Connolly's personal maid.
Personal maid?
I agree that I do not look the type. I only accepted the position because I was on my uppers. My regular racket is specialty dancing. Please be seated.
Thanks. Cora, if I may call you Cora?
Oh, please do.
Cora, as I understand it, Miss Connolly needed a bodyguard, but she couldn't afford to hire one. So she asked the insurance company that holds the policy on her life to supply one. Well, that's me.
All those people coming over from Winnipeg. And of course the restrictions on coming in from Quebec. Meanwhile, flights can continue to come into the country and people can come over the U.S. border. So there's just still a big slew of restrictions. And what I'd like to sort of highlight for people who have been up in arms over the police powers, which were enacted and then sort of rolled back over the weekend, this concept that police can arbitrarily stop you and ask if you're breaking the law. You know, if the law is valid, it's valid to enforce the law. So the notion that the enforcement is the problem is missing a big part of the point. The big part, there's a problem with the stay-at-home order. I mean, the stay-at-home order engages our constitutional rights as well, and I think people need to talk about that issue as well.
Yeah, I mean, because if you really, stand back, and I think Steve Paikin kind of worded it best. He said, it's moments like these in this country, and I don't recall, other than G20, kind of a lower moment in Canada of abuse of power like this. But I mean, it really does make you realize the threat to democracy.
And this is essentially a return of carding, right? Like in 2017, the government of Ontario banned the practice of carding. It stopped arbitrary street checks.
Why does it still say ethnicity white on my fucking
it's done at a random choice rather than because of a legally permissible reason.
Status sickle cell Badoo card.
When everything's illegal, everyone's a criminal. But it's not enough to just say, anyone who's outside of their house may be committing
a crime. Back in the 90s, the Toronto police tried to say any group of 3 or more people, they would be stopping and searching because that's our bag.
They're committing a crime. That engages our charter rights. That is so on its face a violation of our fundamental rights. And the problem lies in large part with the notion of the stay-at-home order itself. We were looking into all weekend. I was working all weekend on preparing a legal challenge for all of this. We sort of suspended that as the ground is still kind of continuing to shift beneath our feet. But we were certainly happy to see that the government didn't change the wording of that enforcement order and made it more constitutionally permissible.
Well, it speaks volumes when, 30 police forces come out and say, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. They want nothing to do with this, because after G20 and certainly over the issue of carding and in the year 2021, there's absolutely no upside for them to get blamed for all of this. But there will be forces out there who do still pull people over and stop people. And I mean, I think a lot of people forget, for a lot of the outrage we're hearing, Christine, over these draconian measures, I mean, there were a lot of doctors asking for this very thing, saying lock everything down, just like they did in Australia. Well, that's kind of what Ford was doing, and people went, crazy over it. But, you can't have it both ways.
Yeah, I'm actually perplexed by the reaction of a lot of public health officials who are screaming about this, because realistically, these are the people who have been asking for tighter lockdown measures. Oh, we've never had a real lockdown. We need a real lockdown. Like, what exactly do you think that looks like? It looks like what the government did on the weekend and then repealed because, people don't want to live in that type of world. And it's also unconstitutional. Like, the police do not have the constitutional power to do what this law was suggesting they should do. And, I'm quite skeptical of police generally. I'm, so libertarian, so it's in my nature, but my heart actually goes out to individual officers who, for the most part, are interested in arresting bad guys. They're not interested in ticketing families going down slides at the playground. And they have worked for years, since the end of carding in 2017, to sort of build bridges in communities, and community policing is kind of really important. And this just completely erodes the trust between police and the public, which is hard to build. And when this pandemic is over, they need to go back to continue to police this community. And good luck getting any community cooperation on the investigation of serious crimes when you've ticketed a mother, pushing a baby on a swing in 2021.
And so where are the vulnerabilities still that people should know about? I mean, I knew in my head, as soon as I heard the announcement, I will be taking my kid to the playground because I just will not further the abuse and the damage that it's doing. And a lot of parents I know said the very same thing. I don't care, I'll take the ticket because it's been that hard on the kids. But what are the big vulnerabilities that are still outstanding that have yet to be kind of addressed and what people should be wary of?
So we're actually working on a document at the Canadian Constitution Foundation providing guidance to citizens of exactly what to do if you are stopped by police. The government has changed the regulations so that you cannot be stopped for the sole purpose of being asked why you're out and about. Just the fact of being outside of your house is not a good enough reason to be stopped. But I recommend everyone familiarize themselves with the reasons that the stay-at-home order do permit leaving your home. That includes things like getting exercise, going to a pharmacy, going to an essential business to get groceries, things like that. So familiarize yourself with the reasons that you are permitted to leave your house. I mean, what a world we live in, but please be familiar with that list. And if you do have an interaction with police, it's always a good idea to speak calmly and respectfully, even if you are feeling frustrated.
Not to mention, if you've got your smartphone, it's always a really good thing to record conversations also in a non-confrontational way, but also to make sure that there's documentation of what went down. Well, we'll see what happens. Your guess as far as the federal government enacting any more emergency powers, and politically, I think they want to look like kind of heroes coming in. Do you see them enacting those, or do you think it's too politically toxic after what we witnessed in the last 72 hours?
I think that there's some political toxicity with the idea of even bringing in even heavier hands, and the Prime Minister has said publicly, he likes to help the provinces. He's not coming in to tell the provinces how to run their system. So I don't know if there's a real chance of that emergency act, the Federal Emergency Act, being invoked. I mean, invoking it doesn't get us more vaccines. It doesn't get us more healthcare workers. And really, that's what we need in order to solve this pandemic.
Yeah, we needed it months ago, but nonetheless. All right, Christine, we'll be in touch again as this story, as you say, the earth is still shifting on these policies. Appreciate your insight.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Christine Van Geyn, who is with the Canadian Constitution Foundation, and they're doing an awful lot of help for people who find themselves all of a sudden in this country taken in without any rhyme, reason, or right. Stay with us. On Point, I'm Alex Pearson. This is Global News Radio.
How has business for you changed in the last year, even the last few months? Has your message kept up with these changes? Chorus Creative Services can help you reach your audience wherever they are. Find out how. ChorusCreative.ca.
Stephen, I'm thinking of adding physical gold to my portfolio.
Well, I wouldn't do it. It's volatile and it doesn't pay a dividend.
Really? Because I researched gold, and it actually has averaged over 8% a year since 2002. That's a lot more than I'm getting with you.
Macrophages. Macrophages. Yes, it's on Wiki. You find it. It's abbreviated as either M, Phi, M, and I forget what the word is, but it's the F sound in Cyrillic, or MP, capitalize M, capitalize P. Macrophages. For large eaters, a type of white blood cell of the immune system. So as far as nature is concerned, the virus is looking at me going, look, this animal is so smart, it's figured out macrophages, and it's my white blood cells. The problem is I can't produce enough of them and produce red blood cells, but they work. Macrophages, abbreviated MP, are a type of white blood cell of the immune system that engulfs and digests anything that does not have on its surface proteins specific to healthy body cells, including cancer cells, microbes, cellular debris, I'm guessing that's dead cells, foreign substances, etc. That's all the plastic particles we're all testing positive for and shit now. By the way, how come the cheap brand of water has 100 parts per million plastic and the Nestle or whatever, Evian, has 10,000 parts per million, has 100 times as many, 10,000 parts per million? The process is called phagocytosis, which acts to defend the host against infection and injury. And there's an interesting, I'll use the term photo, from a microscope. It's a micro photography or something. This thing here is stretching out its arms. That's an MP. It's reaching way out here and here to oh, what did we do? It's stretching way out to grab two different pieces of crap. Two little pieces of crap. That cell over here can sense that crap over there by whatever means. I think there's chemical explanations for it. But it's a very multi-step process. That little cell, it's a cell, it's a single cell. It's not a single cell organism, it's one of our cells. It's a cell. It can reach out and grab stuff and say, fuck you.
On Point Weekend with Alex Pearson on Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
My plantation, my
leadership in Ontario education. A recent very sudden resignation tells us no, and if you've been following the story, happened in March where the York Catholic District School Board appointed a new director of education, and then by April, Robert Hofstaffer resigned suddenly. And the problem seems to be is because he came from the outside, meaning he had not been a teacher, so he shouldn't have been considered. It doesn't mean he couldn't do the job, because you just look at his resume. He's got very solid credentials. He headed the computer science and engineering robotics at St. Mike's College in Toronto. For 20 years, he was a vice president of global information and security operations at Scotiabank with an expertise in financial security services, software technology, and advanced strategies for STREAM schools. He also has a master's degree in business administration and education and is certified information systems security professional, a project management professional, and a member in good standing with the Ontario College of Teachers. COVID. I don't know. He sounds kind of qualified. The problem he was just not one of them. Paul Bennett joins us now. He is a director of Schoolhouse Consulting, and he joins me bi-weekly in what we call
the IT guys say there's a virus going crazy. We can't stop it.
Confounding.
Disconnect everything from Wi-Fi, pull all the Ethernet cables, everything, turn it all off.
It's an exclusive club. It's called the Council of Directors of Education. There are 72 of them in Ontario. And in the summer, in let's just say July, there were 14 vacancies for the 72 positions. About a little less than half are women, and 3 are people of color. And so this fellow was hired. He was the first to be hired under change in the regulations, and it was basically a perfect storm with him as the target. and I'll explain why. The government decided that they wanted to expand the pool of people who could be directors of education. They said that there would be more diversity. They wanted to increase the diversity and include people who ordinarily wouldn't be qualified or considered for such positions. That seemed to make sense. But all hell broke loose when they passed the legislation and they changed the regulation. And all they did was insist that they didn't have to necessarily be a teacher, and they didn't have to have supervisory officers' credentials. But they did argue that it would allow for more diversity. So I guess you could say that Robert Hofstadter, who is highly qualified and would be considered a candidate for any chief executive in any organization, got himself into an impossible situation. Now, here's how bad it was. Within 1 week of the legislation being amended, there was a petition with 30,000 signatures on it opposed to removing the supervisory officer's qualifications from the position, even though there were 14 vacancies and they weren't going to necessarily be fulfilled in a hurry. One of the great ironies, and you may know this, is that Carleen Jackson, who was the acting Toronto District School Board director, didn't have those qualifications either. She's a chartered professional accountant and with a master's degree in business administration. She was the first Black woman ever appointed to the Toronto District School Board. So I would say there's three things working against Robert Hofstadter. One, he was a man. Two, he was white. And three, he was from the business community. Now, those combination of things are all that you need to know for what happened. Now, unraveling what exactly happened to the fellow, he faced an internal revolt. You don't get hired and are announced on, say, March the 1st, which it was, and you're gone with a letter to everyone in the entire community on April the 7th, unless there's something going on. So we do know from news reports in York Region that 5 of the superintendents either threatened to resign or did. The CFO, who is not even a teacher, joined them and created chaos inside the school system, making it impossible for Hofstadter even to get off the mark. So I would say a combination of a well-orchestrated campaign to get rid of the regulation and an internal revolt brought him down. Now, I believe there are people who don't hold supervisory officers' qualifications that would make very fine directors, and I'll tell you why. One of the trustees and the former trustee in the Toronto District School Board and I agree. Do you not think that university or college presidents or deans of the faculties of education or even deputy ministers of education are not qualified to be directors? Many of them don't hold supervisory officers' positions. So there is I would say a defensive fortress mentality in education, and here's a perfect example of it.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because we do need new leadership. We absolutely need fresh perspectives in order to get the best education, for our kids. And I'm not even kidding. I'm talking to you and I'm reading, breaking news and stuff. And I'm going to put you on the spot because I'm just reading now, incidentally, the Toronto Catholic District School Board, elementary teachers have voted in favor of strike action. I mean, you literally cannot make this stuff up. So we're in a pandemic. Kids are not going to school, and that's the direction they want to go.
It's really the entire system is in chaos. What I didn't say was, the Toronto District School Board is on their third director since June the 30th. John Malloy left after 4 years, and it was announced as a retirement, but he ended up in California. And he popped up in California in September. He didn't retire. Carleen Jackson replaced him from June 30th to October 1st. And Karen Falconer is now there, but she's leaving at the end of the year. So there will be 3. The largest school board in Canada, the third largest in North America, has had 3 leaders in the midst of this crisis. So, yes, there are things that need to be examined. But I have to say that there aren't that many outstanding leaders that you can afford to sacrifice somebody like Robert Hofstadter. I think it's a crime. I think it's a tragedy what happened to him. He wasn't given a chance.
Yeah, and I mean, these same games are going to continue, and these boards get emboldened because they just keep putting in people that are, go along to get along. And so therefore there's no one challenging or no one really trying to up the game or provide, different educational views. And I think parents should be absolutely, outraged by this.
Well, I can tell you this, that Sam Hammond, the president of the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario, he said it all as to what the problem is. He says the Toronto fire chief is a firefighter, the Toronto chief of police is a police officer, president and CEO of SICKLY is a doctor, so the director of education should be a teacher. That's really, really not
human beings.
The point. There are outstanding people who are in education who may not exactly have the exact qualifications, who could do a perfectly fine job. This fellow that was toppled, he was even a teacher in the Ontario College of Teachers, so that doesn't apply. He was a teacher, it's just that he didn't meet every single one of the requirements that maybe Sam Hammond and the ETFO thought were required. But I think there's a, when a posse gets formed and they target people, this is what happens. It's social media. It's a sign of the times and something that should be disturbing. And most of your listeners, I'm sure, listening to this will think, wait a minute.
You carry a gun to work?
Give him a chance.
Let me tell you.
He barely got into the seat and he was gone. I think that's called blackballing.
Sign of the time.
It is, and it will not inspire other good people to come in and try to help and give their thoughts, and that means our kids get robbed. Nonetheless, we'll continue following that train wreck. But Paul, appreciate your time on this.
Well, thank you. I'll try to come up with something a little more uplifting the next time.
Yeah, who knows where we'll be next time. That is Paul Bennett. He is, of course, a regular here on the show. He is the director of Schoolhouse Consulting. Stay with us here. Alex Pearson, On Point. This is Global News Radio.
Doug Ford says schools are safe, but it's not true. 1 in 4 Ontario schools have active COVID-19 cases. Ford didn't do what experts told him to do to keep kids safe. Now the virus is out of control and we're facing school closures again. Half measures don't work. It's time to make vaccines available to all educators and frontline workers. Schools will be safe until transmission is under control. A message from the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario.
Hiring can be checked.
These people kept insisting the schools had to stay open. They argued somehow it takes more teachers to do online learning than in person. I'm a little confused. Why it's making a video essentially. It's a video chat. Like however you're gonna frame it is essentially a video production, isn't it? Video chatting. There's a teacher and a bunch of students. I get it, but why couldn't you teach 10,000 students if you mute all their fucking mics or whatever? It's Doug Ford's. So he didn't do what he should have done, which was close the schools. Australia was the first one to say we fucked up and we're closing the schools. Everybody keeps saying we should have done what Australia and New Zealand did. Yeah, we did. The first things they did, which were incorrect. They were going to keep. It was the Australians that said it doesn't seem to affect children. Blah 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 blah. And the schools were open. The teachers wanted them open. Now they're blaming Doug Ford that they were open. And they're blaming Doug Ford that the schools have cases. Who can bring it into the schools? Only the teachers. Where the kids go? School, home. School, home. They're not even going out anywhere ever anymore, basically.
You can expose your home to the most buyers and negotiate the most money possible.
That's what I need. That's why I got to advertise on your radio station.
His mom was in a long-term care facility. He worked in the radio business and knew that Frank Leo and Associates, the number one.
416 Milkman or some shit. The addresses. Well, there's like 6 different addresses. And like, we'll have the one phone number so that you could call and get directions to the one nearest to you.
And sold for, wait for it, $300
There'll be a payphone conveniently located at the very front of every single one of them, just in case.
Associates, 416-917-5466. That's 416-917-LION. Or go online to getleo.com.
The milkman door is just basically, if you can imagine, a window that instead of a window on the outside is a door that anybody could unlatch from the outside. On the inside is a door latched from the inside. You can take out the empty bottles and put in the fresh ones and close it. And that's all you can do. And there'll be like $1 bill in each bottle or some shit. You don't roll it up and drop it down inside. You put it lengthwise, sticking halfway out. You don't be an asshole. Bottles get steamed anyway. It's the milkman door. You got dumb waiters, milkman doors, dead milkmen. No dumb dead waiters.
Last year because you thought our truck team members wear caps to hide their elf ears.
But you don't use elves, you use fairies.
What makes you say that?
I met Charlotte. What a delight.
You met Charlotte?
First I pointed, then the junk disappeared. But the sparkle sound came a little bit late. So I said, you should probably make that sparkle sound a little bit quicker.
And then what happened?
And then Charlotte materialized out of thin air.
God. I'm gonna fucking die. I can't believe how much my legs
It was a long ride from Dodge up to Ponca Creek in the Dakota Territory, and I killed a good horse getting there. But I caught Lee Trump. His horse double into Sioux Falls, but we came the rest of the way back to Dodge in style.
We don't care, Joe. We don't care.
At least I thought we were traveling in style. Lee didn't seem to care much for it. In fact, he wouldn't even talk until the stage pulled into Dodge and drove up Front Street.
Wannabe hacker / stalker.
You're making a bad mistake, Marshal. Is that so? I didn't kill anybody. There are 2 witnesses say you did, Lee. They're lying. Then why did...
That, of course, could change because we don't know what's going on with COVID. Now, I know a lot of folks focus on the glamour of the NFL, but I am a Canadian football fan through and through, so I see this as a very big loss to a league that just always fights the good fight and is a really big part of our national fabric. I want to bring in Scott Mitchell. He is a CEO of the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And, Scott, this has got to be a big punch to the gut for you guys.
No, actually, I think the opposite. Today's a great day. There's a lot of uncertainty about the league, and obviously missing last season. So the fact that we were able to have our commissioner come out and commit to playing in 2021, that's exactly what I think our fans and our partners want to hear. Obviously, we're in a very difficult situation in Ontario right now. So, no, I see the exact opposite, Alex. I think today's a great day in terms of us committing to playing in 2021, committing to being creative, to finding a solution to get back on the field, and of course, most importantly for all of our fans in Hamilton, getting the Ticats on the field and getting Grey Cup played in Hamilton at Tim Hortons Field. So we're full of optimism. I think it's a very pragmatic solution that gives us a lot of time to ensure us getting back on the field, and we're looking forward to it.
I'm glad to hear that because I was worried that, this being pushed back was a signal that maybe we could be losing a season. So I'm glad to see that there's optimism that we're going to get some kind of season out of this because I have to think anyone's game, certainly for the CFL, is a big hit because every ticket sold is crucial to the bottom line.
Does China play football?
Well, it is. And again, Chinese football league? Today we're excited. We're optimistic.
Remember, basketball's not a contact
date for us to start on August 5th, and we're going to play a 14-game schedule. And of course,
there's got to be a Chinese rugby team. It has to.
I'm outside now. It's just...
You ever hear that when you're like walking and you try to you ever hear that high-pitched kid scream when you're walking? You try to locate where it's coming from. You look, the kid's a half mile down the street, and there's nothing wrong. They might as well be right next to you. It's that high pitch. That's nature's thing. See, I don't need or deserve any help as far as nature's concerned. That's why my voice is kind of low and I don't have the lung function to project like that. That kid was only screaming. It sounds like a fucking police whistle. I could barely whistle on purpose.
Building quite sometimes. We got to give them a great opportunity to get back and get ready for what should be an exciting season come August.
Now, the U.S. was quite successful in the NFL, playing out a season that was fairly unobstructed by the virus. Is there a way, and is there a backup plan coming so that the CFL could do, the same kind of model where there's a pod-like structure that has also been successful for things like basketball and the NHL?
Well, I think the reality, Alex, we have to look at what the government's telling us right now. What the government's telling us is that every Canadian who wants to be vaccinated should be vaccinated by the end of June. And that being the case, that's been a very consistent message from the government. If that's the case, then we should be in good position. And really, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to congregate outdoors, albeit potentially at safe distances with masks and all the other measures that need to be in place. So, the reality is that we really feel this plan gives us the maximum flexibility to be able to play and to be able to pick a specific date. And, it's really, I think, very pragmatic to think we're going to be able to play outdoor stadiums in August and be able to get on the field.
Yeah, there is no question that fans will be champing at the bit to get in those seats and certainly enjoy a Labor Day Classic. The league failed to secure an interest-free loan from the Feds, $30 million, and that was a real hit. Are any other contingencies being put in place? Because the bottom line is, businesses like yours, any kind of entertainment where big gatherings take place, they've been hit very hard, not due to their fault of any of their own. Is there any kind of help coming from the federal government?
Well, the announcement today is not predicated on any of that. I think we've got to take responsibility ourselves to get back on the field, and I think you're hearing that commitment today that we're going to get back on the field. We're going to make this work. I think, there's continuing dialogue with obviously on a daily basis with all the health authorities in the provinces across the country, with the federal government, and of course, Grey Cup's a great opportunity for us to celebrate the national championship, and it's really the only chance we're going to have this year to celebrate a championship in Canada. And it's not just a property or an event that's known in Canada. It's internationally known. So I think there's going to be a great opportunity for all of us to participate to make sure that the Grey Cup is extremely successful.
Yeah, and no question, it's a really fun party, and Hamilton knows how to do it right. Let me ask you this, though. I mean, the hope is to get people a shot at least by June, fully vaccinated by September. Are you building a season plan where it will be less people in stands, spaced out, or are you hoping that you'll get
questions coming? You say no. The question's coming.
No, we're building a very reasonable plan. That's a graduated approach, and as we said, we'd like to have some fans in the stands in August, and hopefully have the chance to ramp that up. But I think everybody is realistic.
Allow me the indulgence of your ear for a moment.
We're going to be doing a great job on getting vaccinated. As I said, if we all do get vaccinated by the end of June, I think there could be a really, a bright light ahead of us. It's a very dark time right now in Ontario, obviously, but hopefully we can start turning the corner and getting some sense of normalcy in the summer and towards the fall. But our plan includes a graduated approach to fan stands.
Oh, right. And just in case something goes wrong, I mean, this is a very unpredictable virus. Are you able to come up with a plan that may not involve fans in the stand, but you could still have a game and televise it and get it out to, Canadian football fans?
Yeah, I think what you're hearing today is that we're committed to playing this year, and we're going to find a way to play. Again, I think when you look at, I know it's hard, but I think when you look at the science and when you look at what the government's telling us, we should be in a good position this summertime. Everybody seems to be saying the same thing. The vaccines seem to be effective against the variants. There'll be a lot more data kind of in June and late June that'll support that, we hope. So, we're committed to playing this year. We're going to find a way, but right now we're focused on that target date of early August and playing the 14-game season.
Well, I know there are a lot of challenges ahead, but I'm certainly crossing my fingers, as are all Ticat fans and CFL fans. So let's look to better times and a really fun Grey Cup season in Hamilton this year.
Great. Thanks very much, Alex.
Scott Mitchell joining us, CEO of the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And let's keep our fingers crossed, because CFL has certainly struggled and deserves to have.
I swear to God.
You look out the window, can you see what is going on Of course, our balcony has a beautiful view. There's greenery, there are high.
Fresh on your business. Course Creative.
Balcony?
The pictures. So
well, no wonder the droplets are spread. No wonder the virus is traveling so quick. If you're up on a balcony, your droplets, if they're going down, let's say it's 45-degree angle. It's whatever the angle of your nose is, basically. You look up a little bit, and your droplets are like just straight for the horizon. And they're landing on somebody like 500 meters away. They don't even notice.
It's 9 a.m.
I had a moment in the hood. The two little bastard kids. No, I could tell from the hair. It wasn't the same as mine, but I could tell from the hair. I had this laughing like as if something just happened right behind me or something, like as if somebody's laughing at. In this case, it would be me. Turn around. They're both, there was like a juice box. They're both looking directly at me like they were staring at the back of my head, not laughing, eating, drinking. Like, what am I looking at? No. Bastard kid. I didn't have time to cuss them out because I was walking around in the sun all day. I was too tired. Plus, where I'm from, I'm sure somebody will cuss them out sooner or later. Supposedly World Service. Ow! Damn it.
But mercilessly always has far more on her mind. The complex, tortuous narrative of a
555 Dr. Lou. That's 1-855-55-DRLOU. Or visit pinpointhealth.ca. Pinpointhealth.ca.
Every day in Canada, 3,000 mortgages renew. Important announcement.
Like $400 application fee for each one. That sounds like a
contact
scam.
butlermortgage.ca. 1.15% 5-year variable rate at
I'm
renewal.
gonna buy an
No
old crack
gimmicks,
house
no
for
fees.
$1
It's
plus
the
the back
same
taxes.
mortgage as your bank.
I'll burn down
If
the
you
house on each
qualify,
side.
you save thousands.
Pit bulls all around.
1.15% 5-year variable mortgage at butlermortgage.ca.
License number 12118, high ratio variable rate.
Interesting with the interesting thing with these shipping containers, if you got a space like as long as a driveway, there's parking behind the place, you got enough for a shipping container. The interesting thing is you can stack them up, like, and technically they're not a structure, so I don't know if there's a legal limit. I don't know what you would have to. You can stack those things like 10 high. You're only supposed to build buildings 4 floors high. What would the city say? What could they possibly say? Oh, but I'd be a dick. I'd put the twist locks in and then weld them.
Resurface and new possibilities with them.
You think you're pulling it off.
Difference in
You don't even have to weld all of them. Weld like one on like alternating corners all the way around. Just
to take you on a ride like no other.
Rebar
It's driving season. Lease to finance a Volvo XC40 T5 from 2.9% and save $1,000. Conditions apply.
Oh my god. It's a car commercial. What is that music supposed to make me feel? I'm traveling through the winter princess's wonderland in my rally car, but it's perfectly safe because it's all-wheel drive and it's electric, but it also runs on biofuel and fairy dust and
Music. Looking for tips on how to talk with your teens.
the thing I don't like about Volvos, they got odd numbers of cylinders. The Volvo S70 or something, 5-cylinder engine. Yeah, it bothers. It's like turbocharged and everything. 5-cylinder. In my head while I'm driving, it's like it feels like sounds like it's not balanced. Like there's something. And it's all psychological.
No. You're listening to On Point Weekend with Alex Pearson on Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
This movement that was so honorable and so impassioned has turned into something completely different. It's all become, how do we continue to fuel this destruction?
There is a push for a 100% renewable world. What they don't talk about are the unseen harms caused by these technologies.
Oh.
So that was just a small taste of a new
People don't want to
documentary
admit
called
that if you
Bright
don't fit
Green
in with
Lies.
nature,
It challenges this notion that the key to reversing climate change is by investing in renewable energy sources.
You didn't care about the
governments around
bats
the world
or
are
the
now pouring
civets
trillions of dollars into green
or
energy
the camels
development. What doesn't
or
get
whatever
covered
Ebola
is the
comes
cost
from.
renewables is doing to our environment. And environmentalists are certainly quick to condemn things like
The only reason
the
you get a
oil
rabies
sands and
vaccine is because
destruction.
you want
But
cats and dogs in
they're
your
blinded
house.
by the destruction of what happens when
You
you
don't
do
give
things like
rabies
mine
vaccine
for
to wild
metal so you
animals.
can create electric car batteries, or what happens with wind turbines that poison waterways and kill wildlife. Julia Barnes is a Toronto-based documentary filmmaker of Bright Green Lies. This is also your second documentary following the ocean sea of life. Great to have you.
So people don't seem to understand things. When fish don't swim downstream. They're swimming upstream. The water is moving a lot faster. Fish always go against the flow. Always. Always, 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 always. The wind pushing the wind pushes the turbine. The turbine does not suck the air in. More birds would be killed by a stationary object, a building, than the windmill in the same space. The bird would have to be going with the wind and time it. I don't see how you can do it. It'd be damn near perfect. They say they kill 2 a year on average. You could walk around downtown Toronto, and it used to be you find dead birds around every fucking building every fucking night. And what happened is the birds adapted and figured out. You fly into that shit, you'll die. Look at all them down there. Oh, they'll tell you, oh, we instituted all sorts of rules about turning off lights and computer monitors and all that shit at night and blah blah. No, they didn't. They didn't do them. No, 25 years ago they started them, but they still didn't do nothing about that. They leave all the lights on all the time. Or worse, they all flash on and off the whole building for 20 minutes at a time for some reason. Some of these places.
You need to turn a blind eye.
And that kills birds because they get confused and they see the light on the other side of glass and smash right in the glass.
Investing into something that inevitably is going to destroy. You might not like oil, but how is this any different? Because when you see the clear cutting of forests so that you can put up a solar farm, or when you see, burning of natural habitat, or certainly with the mining of mining that you have to do to get the batteries, and then you see landfill after, you would think that people would see that destruction and want to do something about it. But it's not, for whatever reason, getting into the mainstream. But you see people turning now, or are people becoming more aware of it?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's definitely a hunger for this information and a lot of interest to find out what's really going on. Yeah, people are excited to see this film, and I think in the environmental movement, we kind of have this sense that we've been being deceived for a while.
But there are very few of you who do speak out, and what's the reaction like from the environmental movement to you when you finally do speak out?
It's yet to be seen at this point. Certainly I've been getting a lot of comments, and the film isn't even out yet, saying you're funded by the oil industry or you must be corrupted or something. And I just laugh because, I've been opposing all destructive industries, including oil, since I was 16, since I started making films. And of course, Bright Green Lies doesn't promote fossil fuels in any way. But it's really funny, the kind of like black and white thinking, this versus this, that if you're opposing what's considered green technology, you must be for some other destructive thing. And, it's false choice. You can absolutely be against both.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was listening to my little boy as he learned about Earth Day today, and he was saying, "Mommy, you gotta turn off the light and do all these things." And I said, "Well, you have a lot of plastic toys in your room, and your own footprint is not all that clean." And he didn't really understand it because he's too young. But again, these younger generations, they talk about it, but they have a huge carbon footprint that they don't need to have if we're actually teaching.
The white people use the word clean on niggers and kids and anything lesser than them the same way they use the word down with dogs. Think about it. I'm not going to go over every fucking example. You yell down at a dog, the dog doesn't know what you want because you use it for 4 different things. What does he end up doing? Sort of crouching. He doesn't know what the fuck you want. What he's doing is submitting to not knowing what the fuck you want. It's not that clean. Clean. if the plastic is put into a thing that is used and kept for a long period of time, that's not part of the problem. Completely missed the point.
On renewable.
Just look it up on the Apple Crate or whatever. I know I have more work to do. I feel it in my heart. You know.
Entire forests, to put up a solar or wind farm. What were some of the things that really caught your breath that surprised you about this whole industry?
I mean, the renewable industry is expected to be the #1 cause of habitat destruction by the middle of the century, so that's a pretty shocking fact. But the most surprising thing for me, having spent 3 years prior to this working on a film about the ocean, was learning about the impact that this green technology industry will have on the ocean. They've got plans to mine the deep sea to produce a lot of the materials that go into things like batteries for electric cars, but also energy storage for solar and wind on the grid.
This doesn't make sense.
Deep mining, this is a hugely destructive industry that is coming down the line. I mean, we have no idea really what the effects will be, but there's some
all the garbage we've ever thrown out ever getting into our drinking water.
2 to 6 million cubic feet of sediment per day, which is going to be released back into the ocean, toxify the food web, possibly disrupt the plankton who produce most of the oxygen in the air that we breathe. I mean, this is an absolute disaster. Like, the deep sea does not need to be mined. And, they're calling this green. This is happening in the name of green technology, but there's nothing green about sacrificing the natural world.
Well, and we've got some of the biggest automakers now. You've got the GMs, they're all turning to electric cars. So that's the direction it's going. And when you think of the numbers of cars that will be sold with the electric car batteries, I mean, is there any plan, to monitor, let alone, stave off the destruction, or is this just going to turn into one big landfill?
A friend of mine, Max Wilbert, he is currently camped out in Nevada protesting a lithium mine, the site of a proposed lithium mine. And it would absolutely devastate the area there. It's home to some endangered species, and they would be producing thousands of tons of sulfuric acid every day. So, there's people out there working to try to make sure that doesn't happen, make sure that these mines don't go through. And we need a lot more of that. We need people to really get involved and oppose these technologies that, unfortunately, up until now, it has been kind of taboo to oppose this industry. But it's absolutely a destructive industry that requires our opposition.
I mean, up till now it's been taboo.
Sadly, the folks at the top
it's only been okay to advocate for these things for about a year or two.
To make sure that this side of the story is told, but certainly interesting to hear it from you. And the movie is called Bright Green Lies, a documentary that exposes the ugly side of green renewable energy. And of course, if you want more information about this, you can get it at brightgreenlies.com. Definitely worth seeing the other side of the story of this. Good luck with this, Julia. I appreciate your insight into it.
Thank you so much.
That is Julia Barnes. So there you go. Other side of the green story, and it should be told because let's call it out where the wrongs are happening. Stay with us here, Alex Pearson on Point, and this is Global News Radio.
Elevators. They're not something we give much thought to, but when they're not operating correctly, it can cause serious disruptions.
At the end, if I had to wish for something, that would be peace in my country, Afghanistan. It's very common among Afghan people to have the same wish or to have the same dream for their country, but it really is a dream. It really is a wish for us to have peace in our country because.
Oh no, man.
I can't make it pop. I turned off the side. I can't make it pop. It's gonna be loud. Ow! That was a different part of my foot. That wasn't the same part of my foot. That was inadvertent. That was collateral What is this, de-stressing? It hurts like a bastard. Like I get to pop the whatever out of my joints, and then I don't know why, but the bones hurt like, well, sickle cell, but and parvovirus, the bones hurt incredibly. I guess I don't have to say which parvovirus. It's the only one that infects humans.
Hack. Oh, you're sure good, man. You're awful good. Yeah. Better this way, Matt. Than getting paid to fight you. Sure. Sure it is. There weren't no reason to fight you. Not that way. I can't see you no more, man. It's like being underwater. I can't see nothing.
Again, collateral.
And that was awful good shooting. I never seen nothing as fast as that in my whole life. My, I'll bet he didn't know what hit him. The way he spun around there when you... Mr. Dillon? Mr. Dillon, what's the matter? Mr. Dillon?
He's a white guy. Only us half-breeds see things different.
Worried about it, and they are concerned what will happen, what will be the future of Afghanistan, and what we will do in next few months. It is really concerning for my friends, my family even, and it affects me as well.
But the important thing is just, you know, all the positive things that have happened can continue, because obviously there's a lot of people who are looking at a more positive future for Afghanistan. So, you know, let's hope.
Yeah, hopefully.
And hopefully you will be going to university for real. How are you feeling about that? Are you feeling more excited about the prospects of being on campus and being able to see your fellow students in person?
Yeah, actually, I'm excited to go there, but even the case of going to university on campus is not clear yet because of the arrival of Taliban and the withdrawal of U.S. troops and U.S. People that are here, maybe even the U.S. Embassy from Kabul. And this is something also not clear. There are rumors that the university will get banned and things like that.
Really? Okay. Keep me posted, Marcelina, and just tell me about how things are going. You never know. You know, one day you'll be in London, we can meet up, or you never know. I can visit Kabul.
Thank you so much, Mr. Allen. It was really a pleasure talking to you again.
Keep well and keep in touch.
Come here, talk to funny stuff.
You've been listening to the story of Marcelina on Don't Log Off, My Life, My World, on the BBC World Service. The music is by Martin Medina and Robert Medina. I'm Alan Dean, and the producer was Mark Berman. Join me next time from the drought-stricken farmland in Jamaica.
You're listening to News 24.
Gonna have to pay to store it, and how are you gonna sell it?
Actually, it's easy to store. And it costs less than your yearly management fee. And I found out that through Guildhall, that buying and selling happens on a phone call.
For details, visit kcrw.com/cars.
Everybody wants their damn cars for free, eh? Everybody wants to take our cars for free.
You.
Sorry, Stephen. I want to do things my way. I'm heading to Guildhall.
Guildhall.
I can't believe how bad my
CRI Learn quick yet fun way to achieve your language goals. Start your free lessons now with unlimited videos, photos, and text tutorials on expressions and Chinese culture. CRI Learn Chinese.
It feels like fractures lengthwise up my bones. I know it's not what it is.
You're listening to China Plus Radio, connecting you with China and the world.
Now the news. I'm Zhou Fang. More than 20 people are dead and dozens injured following a huge fire at a hospital in the Iraqi capital Baghdad, equipped to house COVID-19 patients. Officials say the incident occurred after several oxygen cylinders exploded. Some 90 patients and health workers were rescued. The Iraqi Prime Minister has ordered an immediate investigation into the incident. China is calling on the European Union to stop sowing discord in the South China Sea. The European External Action Service has claimed in a statement that tensions in the region, including the recent presence of large Chinese vessels at Wheaton Reef, endanger peace and stability. A spokesperson of the Chinese mission to the EU said that the reef known as Niuejiao in China is part of Nansha Islands, and that the reef and its adjacent waters have always been important operating areas and shelters for Chinese fishing boats. The EEAS statement also recalled the South China Sea arbitration in 2016. The Chinese mission spokesperson noted that the so-called arbitral tribunal on the South China Sea was established on the basis of the illegal acts and claims of the Philippines, while China does not accept or recognize the award it issued and firmly rejects any claims or actions based on the award. The spokesperson also noted that security risks in the South China Sea mainly come from outside the region. China says it aims to launch the Chang'e 6 probe to collect samples in the South Pole Aitken Basin on the far side of the Moon around 2024. The plan was unveiled at the China Space Conference held in Nanjing on Saturday that marks the country's 6th Space Day. China launched the Chang'e 5 probe in 2020, successfully bringing back over 1,700 grams of moon samples. The country will carry out lunar resource exploration, scientific research and technological experiments during the Chang'e 6, Chang'e 7 and Chang'e 8 missions, aiming to build a prototype scientific research station on the Moon by 2030. Chinese drug maker Sinopharm has commenced Phase 1 and Phase 2 clinical trials for its new recombinant vaccine against COVID-19 in Henan province. The jab is developed by Sinopharm's subsidiary, China National Biotech Group. This is the company's third COVID-19 vaccine candidate approved for human trials. The leaders of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations countries are calling for immediate cessation of violence in Myanmar and urging all parties to exercise utmost restraint. The leaders expressed deep concern on the situation in Myanmar during a meeting in the Indonesian capital, Jakarta, on Saturday, with the chair of Myanmar's newly formed State Administration Council, Senior General Min Aung Hlaing, in attendance. The attendees also called for constructive dialogue among all parties concerned. A special envoy of the ASEAN chair will facilitate mediation of the dialogue process. The regional bloc also says it will provide humanitarian aid. U.S. President Joe Biden has formally recognized that the mass killings and deportations of Armenians by the Ottoman Empire over a century ago were genocide, using a term for the atrocities that his predecessors had avoided for fear of alienating Turkey. Saturday marked the Armenian Remembrance Day. Biden was following through on a campaign promise he made a year ago to recognize the events that began in 1915 were a deliberate effort to wipe out Armenians. The move came 2 years after both chambers of the U.S. Congress passed resolutions recognizing the atrocities as genocide. Armenia has expressed gratitude for the official recognition, while Turkey has rejected it, saying words cannot change or rewrite history. A 4-astronaut team has arrived at the International Space Station aboard the SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule Endeavour.
It's the first crew ever to be propelled into orbit by a rocket booster recycled from a previous space flight. They will conduct science and maintenance during
We knew that already.
Extra rich fruit flavor. So why not brighten up your family table by serving Jell-O for dessert soon? It's easy to make, good to look at, and delightful to taste. Accept no substitutes. Ask your grocer for the one and only genuine Jell-O.
Anyone else remember Mr. Grocer? This is a travesty.
That was Plenty of Money in You, played by Abe Lyman and his orchestra. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we bring you the man who made the bee public insect #1, Jack Benny.
Hello again. This is Jack Benny talking, and believe me, folks, I'm sure glad to be back in New York for a couple of weeks.
Well, Jack, if you like it so well here, why didn't you come sooner?
I couldn't, Don, not until I had vindicated myself and my violin teacher. Now that I've played the bee, I can walk down Broadway with head high, unashamed.
Oh, Jack, I thought you did a great job. Did you bring your violin with you?
No, I sent it to Honolulu for a rest.
For a rest?
Yeah. If you'd been missing for days and then had the bee played on you, you'd want a rest too.
Well, all I did was hear it, and I can stand the vacation.
One more crack like that, and you'll get it. Anyway, Don, let's not engage in any low banter tonight. After all, we're broadcasting from the Waldorf Astoria.
Yes, indeed. This is a pretty high-class place, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Quite swanky.
Swanky? Well, I had a shave before they let me in the barber shop. Yes, sir. You know, Don, I think their prices here are quite well balanced. I didn't pay a cent more for having my suit pressed than I did for my suit. You're stopping here, aren't you, Don?
Oh, yes, Jack. I have a lovely room on the 22nd floor.
Well, when you go to your room tonight, be sure and use the middle elevator.
The middle elevator? Why?
That one has the best floor show. I tell you, Don, the service here is deluxe. Come in.
Mr. Benny?
Yes.
On behalf of the entire personnel of the Waldorf Astoria, may I extend a cordial greeting and invite you to avail yourself of every possible facility here.
Well, thank you. Are you the managing director?
No, I'm vice president in charge of removing dishes.
A busboy.
Yes, in the vernacular. Here's my card.
Your card, thank you. Well, that's odd, a round card.
It's also a butterfly. Goodbye.
Oh, gentlemanly fellow, wasn't he?
Yes, rather.
Yeah.
Hello, Jack. Is this the place?
Oh, hello, Mary.
Yeah, I prefer that governments, whether federally, provincially, would do more to help people that are in need, and so that they don't have to wait in the queue for 3 months or 6 months. But I think if we should continue to...
Well, the first one's about 80 years old.
Yoruba guitar from Deep Sea
We'll hear it again later.
Turkey has summoned the U.S.
That
ambassador
argument's been
to
going around for about 80
Ankara
years.
President Biden's
We'll hear it again
recognition
later.
of the massacre of Armenians during the First World War as
Jack
genocide.
Benny gets the show, I guess.
Say, Mary, you've been in New York all alone for a week. What have you been doing?
Plenty, and I wasn't alone.
Oh.
You remember the fellow I wrote you about that I met on the train?
Oh, you mean that salesman?
Yeah.
Now, wait a minute. You told me in your letter he got off at Cleveland.
Just to mail that letter. He got right on again.
Oh. So he's the guy that's been taking you out.
Yeah. I saw all the good shows. And, oh, Jack, there's one show that you shouldn't miss.
Really?
It's called, gee, I can't think of the name of it.
Was it Stage Door?
No.
Red Hot and Blue?
No, that's funny. I saw the name stamped right on the towel of my hotel.
The name stamped on the towel in your hotel?
I got it. You can't take it with you.
Oh, sure. There's nothing like drying yourself with a good show.
Hey, Jack.
Yeah?
Where's Phil Harris?
Bill Harris, darn it. I left him in Hollywood. I forgot my pajamas, too.
Well, Jack, Phil asked me to tell you that he'll join us just as soon as he's through making that picture.
Oh, yes. Don, come here a minute, will you? This Abe Lyman who's leading the orchestra, what kind of a guy is he? Personally, I mean.
Well, Jack, he's really an awfully nice fellow. You'll like him, I'm sure. Abe, you know Jack Benny, don't you?
Sure. How are you, Jack? Fine, Abe. Funny, you and I have never worked together before, have we? No, and I'm very happy to have this opportunity. Well, thanks. Seems to be quite a regular fellow, Don. Now, Abe, this being your first appearance with me, I'd like to start you off on the right foot. You don't mind, do you? Well, I just want it understood that I'm head man here, and whatever I say goes. Do you understand?
People coughing in the audience.
And furthermore, I want this settled right now so we won't have any trouble in the future. Is that clear? Are you through? Yes. Now, let me tell you something. You might be Buck Benny, but don't try to ride me. Well, we got it right this show, anyway. Fresh guy, huh?
Better look out, Jack.
Why?
I saw him direct the opening number with a blackjack.
Oh. Well, don't worry, Mary. I'm a pretty tough guy myself.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Well, I can handle you and Fred Allen. Well, no wonder. We're both anemic. Say, Don, come here a minute. I thought you told me Lyman was a nice guy.
Well, he is, Jack, but this is his first time working with you, and naturally he's just a little nervous and excited. You can't blame him.
Oh, is that it? Well, I guess maybe I was a little hasty and inconsiderate. After all, I can appreciate his state of mind. Tell him to play, Don.
Play, Mr. Lyman.
These orchestra leaders are so sensitive.
Economic downturn now, Ankara cannot afford another crisis with the West. It seems Erdogan's goal right now is to seek some type of a normalization with the Biden administration. It so happens that Turkey cannot afford economically to continue to have terrible relations with the US and the West. And I think that Ankara, at the end of the day, will kick and scream, but will not let the Armenian genocide issue derail that prospect for normalization.
Somebody over there gets paid to make this.
Aydin Taşbaş from the European Council on Foreign Relations in Istanbul.
There's a buying guns, probably buying
where the daily tally of COVID deaths and infection has hit new records again today. Officials are calling the second wave a tsunami. One of the worst affected areas is in the capital region of Delhi, which has a population of more than 20 million. Hospital beds and oxygen cylinders are increasingly becoming a scarce commodity, throwing the city into panic. Dr. Millie Ray is a consultant pediatrician at the private Max Healthcare Hospital in Delhi. She told me first about the situation there.
Even though this is not a COVID designated hospital, more or less 85% of the beds are reserved for COVID. At present, yes, we are having adequate oxygen, but there is a point where we have to refuse a number of patients because of the lack of beds.
Is the healthcare system collapsing in Delhi, do you think?
The problem in Delhi it is definitely grim. The second wave hit us very suddenly, and we have to say that we were not prepared well. The health system isn't collapsing. We are trying our best. What is happening is 2-3 problems. One is panic. Second is the fact that enough triaging is not done. So mild and moderate should be a home care or isolation. That has to be very well understood, and it's only severe cases we have to cater to. So that triaging is not done. If you want to say the health system is collapsing, well, you can, but what matters is we have to give adequate care to COVID patients. And compared to the population density of India and in Delhi, the healthcare never matches.
Dr. Ray, why were the hospitals not prepared for a second wave? Did the government not warn you about this?
It's not only about government, Celia, it's also about the public. I guess we were too complacent. There were so many people, including people from my family, who were not wearing masks, who were not going for COVID appropriate behavior. So the second wave dawned upon us very suddenly. And yeah, we were not prepared exactly.
What can the government do now to alleviate the situation? Is it too late?
I don't think it's late at all. We have to gear up and prepare ourselves. First thing the government should do should be having zero tolerance if somebody is not following COVID appropriate behavior. Then obviously one has to get more infrastructure. There's no doubt about it. So Indian government, especially in Delhi, is getting oxygen from all over the place. And we should never forget the vaccination. We continue to vaccinate. The drive is very important.
Is a national lockdown needed?
I don't know about national, but Delhi definitely needed.
Dr. Millie Ray, well, the Delhi Disaster Management Authority is due to review the lockdown there today.
Seen their train system?
16 minutes past
this is
the hour.
going to breed
and
spread and breed and spread. This is going to go
A short
crazy.
while ago, polls opened for parliamentary elections in Albania, one of southern Europe's poorest countries. The governing Socialist Party is seeking a third term in office, while the Democratic Party hopes to return to power after 8 years in opposition. The former communist country hopes to eventually join the European Union. However, widespread corruption is seen as just one barrier to that happening. We're joined now live by our Balkans correspondent, Guy Deloney. Guy, how is the race in Albania shaping
Didn't
up?
stop any of the European countries from
Well,
joining.
it's as you said just then, the big issue here really is European Union membership. That's what everybody in Albania wants to get going. Doesn't matter if you're in the ruling Socialist Party or the main opposition Democratic Party. What you're saying is we want to steer Albania towards European Union membership. And perhaps the biggest thing that can be done in terms of this, regardless of what either of those parties say, is that this election goes off smoothly and that everybody respects the result, because that's been something of a rarity in Albanian elections since it became democratic about 3 decades ago. You'll find that whoever loses tends to shout loud and long that the other side rigged it. And indeed, we've had a parliamentary boycott by the opposition for a couple of years in the run-up to this election.
As you said, Albania hopes to join the EU, but is that really likely to happen anytime soon, no matter what happens with today's election?
It's got the green light from the European Commission to start accession negotiations. The problem has been getting this through the individual states of the European Union at the council level. And there's been particularly strong opposition from France and from the Netherlands, who really don't have much of an appetite, or at least they feel their voters don't have much of an appetite for the expansion of the European Union. And they look at Albania, and as you said in your introduction, it's one of the poorest countries in Europe, and they think, how on earth am I going to sell that to my constituents? So they've been raising the bar higher and higher in terms of Albania and its neighbour North Macedonia starting these accession talks, which is extremely frustrating for those countries which have both done quite a lot in terms of reform, and in the case of North Macedonia, even changing its name so it can get these talks going. And there's a real feeling of letdown in those two places.
Just briefly, Guy, voting is taking place during a pandemic. What restrictions are in place?
Well, you'd expect social distancing restrictions to be in place, as indeed they are. But there's been some controversy because the government has said stay at home if you've got coronavirus, but there's no testing at the polling stations. There's also an issue with the sizable diaspora vote. If they've come in from neighbouring countries like Greece to vote, well, they've had to serve a quarantine, which theoretically stops them from voting. So that's been quite a controversial point.
Guy, thank you. Guy Deloney, our Balkans correspondent. Well, now to a special meeting called by the ASEAN countries, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. In his first known foreign trip since the takeover, General Min Aung Hlaing heard calls for the Myanmar military to stop killing protesters and to release political prisoners. So far, more than 700 people have been killed and thousands detained since the coup in February. At the talks that were held in Indonesia on Saturday, Myanmar's neighbors asked for an immediate stop to the violence and opening a dialogue between the military and civilian leaders, with that process overseen by a special ASEAN envoy who would also visit with a delegation. I spoke to Dr. Sasa from the opposition, the National Unity Government, and Myanmar's former special envoy to the United Nations.
It's encouraging, but what is needed, that will be taken on the ground of Myanmar not in Jakarta or other part of ASEAN. So will the killing stop? Will terrorizing of 54 million of people in Myanmar stop? Will thousands of people being arrested, adopted by this military gunmen stop or release all of them? Will impunity for military generals persist? We look forward to firm action by ASEAN and we'll be monitoring closely the results of the summit.
Does it concern you that we have not yet heard a statement directly from the military? We have only heard from ASEAN.
These military generals have records of telling lies and lies and lies again. So maybe they will be saying something very differently in ASEAN summit and come back to Myanmar and continue killing. And then I think that this is a very important that they should be held accountable for the deaths of 752 unarmed civilians of Myanmar. They should be held accountable for all the crime against humanity. They should be held accountable for all the atrocities that they have committed from 1st of February till today. We have collected large volume of 300,000 cases of violations of crime against humanity and human rights. So it's very, very important that we hold these military generals accountable.
Will your national unity government engage in a dialogue with the military fostered by ASEAN?
We will never engage with any type of dialogue until these military generals stop killing the people, release all political prisoners, and give back, return the power to the people of Myanmar that represents by the government of Myanmar, which is national unity government, for which I am a minister for. So this is very important that the results of 2020 elections is respected and it is democratic and free and fair elections it was. So they have to accept that. And then after that only we can think about of dialogue and talking. Otherwise, how can we talk to our killer?
Dr. Sasa from Myanmar's alternate civilian government, the National Unity Government. You are listening to the BBC World Service. And Andy Barwell joins us with the latest sports news.
Thank you. A strong message is being sent out from English football. The FA, Premier League, Football League and Women's Super League are all coming together with players, officials and even fans groups for a social media boycott over 4 days from this coming Friday. It's in response to the ongoing sustained online abuse received by players and many others connected to the sport. Well, the boss of the Premier League side...
Come in. 25 rooms there. I made another room out of it. Well, that was clever. Hey, Ben, why don't you and Mary come over tonight? We got dancing and music. Oh, an orchestra, too, eh? Who's playing there? Fred Herring and the Oriental Canadians. My, what musicians, strictly springtime players. That reminds you, Clef, do you call Abe Lyman? Do I know Abe Lyman? Hello, Abe, boy. Hello, Clef. Is my seat ready?
Which is probably wasn't handling that whole industry and my world all that well at some point. So we're leaving the LA Forum after a home game, and I would walk out of the arena, and there's some people there. And I couldn't tell if they're regular, real, honest people wanting an autograph or if they're the for money seekers. And so I suspect, well, I know I wasn't as kind as I should have been. And we get to the car, and before I can even put the key in the ignition, Donna looks over to me and says, "That's enough of that. You're going to go back to being the good guy that you used to be." And from that moment, I was never, ever rude, ever to a person. And in particular, those people that, like she said, so what if they make some money off a trading card? You're doing okay too. Let everybody earn a living, and that was great advice. And that I've never forgotten, and that just puts in proper context the relationship that we have, and that she's more than willing to say, hey, you know, guy that over there sitting in that chair that.
And alive with a real audience, though that's smaller than usual. More from our arts correspondent, Vincent Dowd.
Make yourself to home, Mr. Mankiewicz, or shall I call you Herman?
Please, call me Mank.
The movie Mank will suit the 1930s Art Deco of LA's Union Station, home this year to the Oscars. Mank tells the story of the origins of Citizen Kane. Early on, it was seen as a Best Picture frontrunner, but it may have peaked too early.
I thought we had a connection. Okay. How old am I? What's my name? Sorry, maybe that one's too hard.
Today, and it's in those moments now I look back on all of those things, and I'm with my kid, and you know, I'm trying to tell him to be a gentleman and be patient and forgiving and don't road rage. And I wasn't even driving; he was driving, and so you know, those moments are there. They're going to happen. I guess I like to call them a sort of a temperature check, right?
Yeah.
How's your temperature? And you know, earlier today, that was my wake up call. When we talk about mental health, there's something inside right now, in this very day, that is very built up.
Hour, becoming northeast. Chance of rain near 100%. Miles an hour. Chance of rain 50%.
This is Virginia.
Up to 30 miles an hour. Chance of rain 50%. Sunday night, mostly clear. Mostly clear. Lows in the upper 40s. Northwest wind. Sunny. Highs in the upper 60s.
Oh,
Northwest wind 5 to 10 miles an hour with gusts up to 20 miles an hour. Monday night, mostly clear. Lows of